Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of entertaining and highly excited racing action in none other than the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 13, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. That's right, we're back once again and we charge away into the second half of the season with no pause and no break, have made away from the lofty countryside of Elkhart Lake in the US state of Wisconsin at Road America only a week ago, and we charge into the second half of the season by heading to the European continent, and we arrived here at the Tilke designed and highly controversial at the time Hockenheimring Grand Prix circuit. Known in force, the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit is a circuit which has seen multiple changes over its extensive 80-plus year history. Once a tour into the local forest and widely regarded as Germany's equivalent of an oval from the United States of America, albeit with some chicanes thrown into the mix, albeit preceded of course by hairpins that became chicanes in the 1960s, is a circuit that's more rapidly and recently evolved into a much more technical circuit. Gone are the extended straights, which would see cars reach speeds in excess of 160 to 180 miles an hour before heavy braking zones, and in have come a wide array of hairpins, short straights and sweeping curves. Indeed, the John Hugenholtz design giving way in 2002 to the templated design of Hermann Tilke, and what it does mean now is that this is a circuit that's widely regarded as the template for most modern circuits in the world, at 2.84 miles in length, 16 corners in totality, one is highly technical, full of width, and offering up plenty of overtaking opportunities lap after lap and corner after corner. But in the dry, that means it is a very complex circuit, one that's difficult to master. When you do add a sprinkle of wet weather into the mix as well, it only muddles things up even more, and that's exactly what our drivers need to try and conquer today, because it has been raining here in the practice session and the build up to today's racing as we get ready to go into qualifying, as you can see in the background, and therefore it's going to be a circuit whereby we could see it derail the prevailing tides of what our championship contenders, and could we see some new names rise to the top? Well, that's what we're here to find out as we tune in live from circuit side. Indeed, you're joining me on this journey for Split B as you tune tonight, catching all the racing action as it unfolds on the official SimRacing International YouTube channel, and that's on youtube.com, and search for SRI or SimRacing International and you can be tuning in there. And why not subscribe today so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts that we have on a weekly and fortnightly basis, including for our Thursday GT3 Championship, our Sunday UK SimRacing GT3 Championship, and our fortnightly series, including of course the Transatlantic Trophy due to get underway in a week's time. It's opening round, and of course we do have none other than the GT Championship back for its third season, and that's due to get underway tomorrow, but the broadcast will be post round next Tuesday. But regardless of how you're tuning in the commentary booth, you have myself, Paul Walsh for Split B, and I shall be host and commentator for your Premier and Club classes this season. But if you're more inclined to look towards the Elite and Pro classes of Split A, well, of course we've got you covered there with a simultaneous live broadcast being brought to you by Joe Glass and none other than Darragh Thacker, and go give them some support as well. As much as you may be tuning to the Split B broadcast, indeed one have both broadcasts at the same time, so you can catch all the racing action from our 120 driver grid across our 260 car splits. Indeed, as we make our way into this round, well, if you're staying with us in Split B, the first thing we do of course need to do is make sure you're up to speed with the story after 5 rounds of racing, and to do so, let's give you a thorough recap. And so, as we can see, we take a look at our calendar, and as we only mentioned moments ago, we're at the Hockenheimring Grand Prix circuit today. It's a 1-hour race on the cards with mixed weather conditions, the second of our 3 mixed weather rounds this season. It is the 6th of August, but last time out, all the way back in the midst of July, it is the final week of the 7th month of the year. It's crazy to think how we completed what was the 7th month of 2026 last time out. Well, on the 30th of July at Road America, what exactly went down? Well, it was a very interesting round because it's our second endurance race round of the season, and it was dry conditions throughout. Then qualifying, we got to see Liam Fraser make it a 3rd pole position in a row, whereby he was able to take the pole position overall in Premier by 0.4 seconds ahead of his main rival for this season, Menno Bloem. Now, intriguingly, Menno Bloem will not be here today, but we'll come to that very shortly and what it actually does to the Premier Championship in reality, because there's an interesting conundrum regarding Liam Fraser, not today, but in a week's time at Le Mans, but more on that in a sec. Let's stay talking about Road America. So it was Liam Fraser who took pole position overall in Premier. Bloem was the 2nd place starter, but he had much closer competition, with 2nd through to 24th overall, separated by only a single second. Hussein Serkadessa and Connor Pink both impressed, with season best qualifying performances of 5th and 6th overall respectively. And in the club class, Michael Lecco surprised everybody with 12th place overall and class pole, 0.1 seconds ahead of Jack Giles, who had Joshua Downing hot on his heels. But in the race, well, it's a very strategic race, no doubt about it. Although some would say that Liam Fraser and Menno Bloem very quickly ran away, if not for Menno Bloem trying to get his elbows out into turn 1 versus Fraser, and he almost got the jump on him, but Fraser in the end made sure to get his elbows out just as much. It was a tough start for Eddie Favourable and James Howarth, conversely, where they spin for Favourable on the open lap at turn number 5, collecting James Howarth in the process and sent them both down the order, although there was also a brief incident further down the field involving Rachel Hugh, Robin Aston and Daniel Miller, and what it meant was most of the field had a safe lap number 1, but not everyone did. But after the incidents were done, it quickly became a racer's strategy, where 2 stop being the most effective, although there was one daring devil who went for the 1 stop in the form of Martin Kenyon. He did pull it off, however, it was not going to give him too many places in the end, only going from 19th to 18th in the Premier class. The question was then how much fuel to take in each of the respective pit stops and whether to change tyres. And Barry Wenman was the man who triggered off the pit stops, going early on lap number 9 for a reverse strategy, whereas everyone else opted for the 2 long stints and a short final stint, but Wenman decided to go for a short opening stint and 2 longer final stints. Ellen Olsen also went for a huge gamble on strategy, only changing 1 tyre in a second pit stop, and that enabled her to secure 8th in the Premier class, ahead of a fast-charging Clyde Vella, who literally was only a 10th behind at the line, if that, and it was a season-best performance for Ellen Olsen, and we caught up with her after the race, and she was very pleased to talk about what was a superb day of strategy for her. And Ross Wheatley as well took his first top 10 of the season with 6th place overall and in Premier, also impressing with pace and strategy in equal measure. But in the club class, well, we got to see a change of all 4 tyres in the first stop for Michael Lecco, and whilst it put him further down the order, he seemed to have the pace to potentially steal away the win, or steal it back from Jack Giles, who took over, having not taken all 4 tyres in his pit stops. However, there was an error on lap 29, which spoiled the chance of Lecco for taking the win, as he made his way out of the carousel and into the barrier, and suddenly it forced him into a three-way fight for second place with Rob Gregg and Michael Rhodes, where Gregg had not changed 8 tyres and Rhodes had only changed 2 tyres, and the trio went 3 wide on lap number 42, the penultimate lap into Canada Corner, and in the end contact between Rhodes and Gregg was the outcome, and on the final lap Lecco and Rhodes had a little bit of a conversation out on the circuit, and it turned into all-out warfare between the 2 of them, and well, in the end it was not without controversy, but it would go to second place with Lecco, and Rhodes would fall back outside of the podium. And so Jack Giles in the end would be the man who would run away to the victory, although do keep in mind as well that Joshua Downing had an opportunity to try and steal away the win, but a black flag drive-through penalty for him due to instant points prevented from him surmounting a charge versus Giles. So when it was all said and done, who were your winners and who were your losers perhaps? Well, we talked perhaps more about the losers out there, although one of the big winners was a notable drive from Govind Suresh, who went from 15th in Premier to 11th place and had plenty of battles throughout the race, but the winner overall in Premier, of course, was none other than Liam Fraser, who converted that pole position into victory, and well, it was his 3rd win of the season, and nobody seemed to help stop him, including his main rival, given the gap was 11.6 seconds between him and Bloem. In the club class, Jack Giles in the end got it right on strategy, got it right on pace, didn't make too many mistakes, and that's how he got the job done. And it nicely leads us in now, of course, into the Hockenheimring, with Jack Giles taking that 1st win of the season, hoping to try and make it 2 in a row today. But of course, if that's the story from Road America, let's talk a little bit about the standings coming into this round, and here they are on screen. We begin, of course, with the Premier Championship standings, and after a grand total of 5 rounds, we can see that Liam Fraser leads on 470 points, 23 ahead of Menno Bloem. Now, on paper, this is an open goal opportunity for Fraser to make it a 4th win of the season and 3 in a row. Given the fact, of course, now he does have that run of victories, and Menno Bloem is not here today, and interesting enough, he's in France right now visiting friends, but also potentially doing some reconnaissance of Le Mans for a week's time, albeit I think he decided to go there a little bit early and perhaps forgot that we were racing at the Hockenheimring, but that's the theory. However, next time out at Le Mans, it will be Liam Fraser who's absent, and remember, there are extra points up for grabs because it's an endurance race round, and therefore Menno Bloem will have an opportunity to try and level the playing field, but at least today, Liam Fraser right now want that 4th win and try to extend his lead. And so, with the top 2 being the best part there of almost 150 points clear of Barry Wenman, the fight for 3rd is truly on, with the Dexterous Motorsports Magenta driver looking behind and seeing that Clyde Vella is slowly approaching him, only 10 points by him. James Howarth as well, not the result he wanted, his weakest performance of the season in the last few rounds, and he falls to 5th on 278 points, but still ahead of Dean Sheesby, who was absent, and we hope to see him back today. And behind the Moonshines Racing Club drivers, Mark De Vries on 222 for SimRacing Team Learns, who normally goes well in these changeable conditions, and he could be one to watch out for today. Connor Pink sits in 8th with his first podium of the season, moving on to 201 points. A very impressive drive from him at Road America. Ahead of John Ludbrett there for GPX Simsport Xenon, who's on 194. And we do have Eddie Favourable, much like James Howarth, having a miserable day at Road America. And unfortunately, that error at the opening lap cost costing him the chance to finish inside the top 10, if not on the podium. So he sits 10th ahead of Ross Wheatley with a season best performance, catapulting him into 11th place now. His first top 10 of the season for DC Motorsport. And Ellen Olsen as well, that brilliant drive to 8th place on strategy, which has moved to 177 points and not too far behind the top 10. Then to the club class we go, and as we can see, Michael Rhodes leads the way for Darkwing Motorsport, and we'll understand be the 434 points he's on. It is a bit of a cushioned gap now, 43 points I should say, to Joshua Downing's 391. How the change will be here in the fact that for Michael Rhodes, it was a bit of a blip at the end of Road America's race for taking 5th when it could have been a podium, and Joshua Downing's wore a black flag drive-through penalty, demoting him from the podium or a chance to win to 7th place, which one of the terms going to get it right today if either of them will do so. Ashley Sharksmith now a 3rd podium in 4 rounds, and he'll be looking for his first win of the season if he can achieve it, and he was one that picked up all the scraps that others were leaving behind when it all went wrong. It could, of course, some very decisive driving when it went wrong between Greg and Rhodes, and also some of the other drivers right at the end, and he was able to squeeze his way through onto the podium. But behind the Moonshiners Racing Club driver on 362 points, it's none other than 26 points to Jack Giles with his first win of the season for Euro Titans Endurance, and we're now sitting in 4th place. He's ahead of Rob Gregg, albeit Rob Gregg, knowing it was a podium that didn't quite come his way, but he'd be hoping for his first podium today. The Moonshiners Racing Club driver typically not going as strong in wet weather conditions, but perhaps he'll surprise us. Danny Weir as well sits in 6th down 219 points, not the way he wanted it to go, outside the top 5 of that 6th place finish, but still the Dexterous Motorsport Cyan driver, 4 points ahead of Michael Lecco, not quite his first win, but definitely his first podium, and the LS Racing driver from Czechia will be looking to try and make it at least another podium today, because now he's shown his true pace, and it's very impressive. Behind him it's Andy Chell, 2 points adrift, but ahead of his Quetmass Motorsport teammate Simon Hunt, and then we do have Mikhail Salcuni completing your top 10. His teammate from Rhino Esports, Marcus Clayton, unfortunately not on the grid for this round, nor the next round, so we'll see him back in round number 8 in a couple of weeks' time. He'll sit in 11th, but he'll fall back because most likely as Christophe Petty marches on, completing the top 12 there for Moonshiners Racing Club on 151 points. But as the team's championship standings, how do those stand after a grand total of 5 rounds of racing? Well, what we can see here is the fact that we do have right now a lead team that's starting to pull away to a degree, and it's Moonshiners Racing Club. Well, they have now opened up a decent lead, have the bootleggers department of the team. Well, the win in Premier for Liam Fraser and the 3rd in club for Ashley Sharksmith means that they are extending that advantage, and they'll look to do so even more today before they do lose Liam Fraser, of course, for Le Mans. Dexterous Motorsports Magenta, they've gone from 3rd to 2nd. They are on the rise, albeit perhaps aided by the absence of Dean Sheesby and Denny Plurgett in the Moonshiners Racing Club Rebels outfit at the Road America circuit, and we're expecting everyone to be back here for the Hockenheimring. It's definitely going to be a bit of a rivalry between the two teams as Moonshine Racing Club Rebels slip to 3rd, and then we do see in 4th place it's the SimRacing Collective Esports 1 who are on the up, a slightly better round compared to more previous form, but they do have close competition right behind them. That close competition come in the form of Dexterous Motorsport Cyan, who sit in 5th on 704 points, and they've gone from 7th to 5th, and right now the Pro Class win for none other than Ross Young in Split A, which given them a major points injection after a tough round for the rest of the team. And that injection definitely be felt valuable as we are Sim Racing Team Lowland sit in 6th. They've slipped from 4th to 6th place, however, they're right still in the fight for 4th, and well, with Menno Bloem taking that 2nd place, and Mark DeVries conversely not quite having the round he wanted at Road America, the team will need to bounce back today. Albeit Mark DeVries is their only representative here at the Hockenheimring, so it may be around a damage limitation. Darkwing Racing, they sit in 7th on 677 points, and they've gone from 6th to 7th. A small slip, but they can always get those points back. And then we do have Euro Titans Endurance going from 11th to 8th, the biggest gainers perhaps out of the back into the top 10 at Road America, and they're on 578 points. They are the best part. They're 51 ahead of, well, in fact 41 ahead yes, it is 41 ahead. I can do mental maths today, I do apologise. They're ahead of GPX Supersport Xenon, and they return to the top 10. We're 4th and 5th for LeBrook and Kostrich in the Premier class at Road America, and NJP Performance go from 8th to 10th. A tough round has sent them backwards, and is it just a temporary setback, or is it a sign of things to come? As sitting in 11th, not on screen, are Axis Sim Sports with Simworks on 492 points, and it was a near miss for the team, no doubt about it, and Chris Jennings in particular losing out on the win in the Pro class, were 2nd place right at the finish line, giving them some major points, and they're 27 points off of the top 10. So that's how the team's championship standings stand now after a grand total of 5 rounds. But let's talk a little bit then about a host circuit, shall we? Here's the Hockenheimring's Grand Prix circuit, located at the Am Motterdam within the vicinity of the town of Hockenheim in the German state of Baden-Württemberg. Of course, the full name of the circuit being a conglomeration combination of the town's name plus the state's name. Located in the country of Germany, this 2.84-mile circuit or 4.57 kilometres, regardless of the units, will always consist of 16 corners. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. And as we can see here, a two-dimensional image really does represent a very two-dimensional circuit. There's minimal, if any, elevation change at this circuit, and it is all about cornering ability and technical nuance rather than worrying about elevation changes and blind apexes. And our drivers will find that as they roar the way into turn 1 at Nord Curve. Typically a corner about carrying as much speed as possible, as long as you don't hit the apex curve too hard and put your car up onto two wheels. In the wet, it's going to be one of those corners where you want to dodge the curb as much as possible and take it as easy as you can and avoid the exit curve as well, with the ditch in the curb catching a lot of standing water. Get it right, they'll make the way up into the first of two back-to-back hairpins. The Parabolica at turns 2, 3 and 4, which is the right-hand hairpin that gives way to a slight right-hand kink and then a left-hand kink that makes them onto the Parabolica. That'll be the flat-out curved run down towards the split-scale hairpin at turn number 6, with, of course, Parabolica and split-scale representing the points on the previous circuit where machining would race into the forest on the extended straights, but not to be anymore. But as our drivers make their way into the heaviest braking zone of all at split-scale hairpin at turn number 6, the lowest speeds, and we expect cars to go down to somewhere in the region of 45 miles an hour in these wet conditions, then be about trying to make your way in towards the second half of the lap, where it's all about arena sequences. First up is the Mercedes Arena at turns 7, 8, 9 and 10, which is the right-hander, which will be flat out in the dry, which will be a lift and coast in the wet, followed up by the heavy 90-degree braking zone corner at turn number 8 at Mercedes, and it's through the chicane at turns 9 and 10 before going onto a short stretch in towards Mobile 1 curve, or the corner where you need to go as late as possible, but there's no runoff area on the left-hand side, there's just a concrete barrier. But get it right, our drivers will carry all the speed into what's also known as Vettel Corner at turn number 12, in regards to the 2018 German Formula 1 Grand Prix, where Sebastian Vettel saw his championship dreams perhaps shattered when he went to the barrier there in the changeable conditions. And as they make the way out to turn number 12, the camber of the corner, expect plenty of rain to be standing on that corner, as they then make the way through the quick switch at turns 13 and 14 into a Sud curve at turns 15 and 16, translating literally into South curve as the drivers make the way for the double right medium speed apex and onto the start finish straights, complete lap and do it all over again, or to see the checker flag. But speaking of things we'd like to see, we'd like to make our way back to circuit side, and so we shall. And let's take a look at how all the drivers are getting on here with not long left in this qualifying session. And we do have a grand total of just over 14 minutes left, and right now the fastest driver out there, well, it's not one of your regular favourites, it's John Hugenholtz, who's looking quite quick at the moment as he does sit on proverbial pole at a 49.499. Now if you're sat there wondering what exactly is the expectation for the timeline of the weather today, we did have light rainfall throughout the entirety of the practice session until the final 5 minutes when the rain did stop. We're expecting it to be cloudy throughout the entirety of this qualifying session. So this circuit is getting quicker effectively as time goes on. That's perhaps the most important thought here, as we do show you the fact that everyone is on the wet tyre currently, apart from those who decide not to go to a tyre. They may not have a tyre on the car, which is Ellen Olsen at this time. But when we do then go into the race, we are expecting the rain to come back briefly at the start of the race. In fact, it will appear to rise throughout the entirety of the warm-up period. And after the race goes away, the rain goes away in the race, about 10 minutes into the race, we are expecting then sunny conditions to prevail. So it will be a circuit that starts off wet and it will gradually dry as the race goes on. And it's the same with this qualifying session, a wet circuit that is drying, so we're expecting these lap times to tumble towards the very end. And that's going to be a game about who's out there at the last possible moment to set the best lap. And will anybody dare go to a set of slick tyres? Well, right now, I'd say probably not, given the fact that we do have, of course, there's a lot of standing water out there. Ooh, as that's a big snatch there from the rear end of John Hugenholtz's car. The GPX SimSport McLaren gets itself back together. That just goes to show you what can very quickly happen there if you push a bit too hard. And the Xenon driver, we're going to get back together as quickly as he can. But if he's currently the original pole sitter overall in Premier, well, the fastest currently in the club class. And, well, I don't want to put the curse on the man, to be fair, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm careful what I say here. It's none other than Mikel Salcuni, the man, of course, who definitely was the quickest at Watkins Glen in the season opener. And so we had that bit of contact with Joshua Downey midway through the race. And the man who's had a lot of bad luck so far this season. But could luck be on his side today at long last? And could this be the chance for him to return to the top step, at least in qualifying for the club class, and potentially have an opportunity to take that win that has escaped him so far this season? Your guess is as good as mine, but I do know we do have a few fans there for Rhino Esports in the YouTube chat, including none other than Katie Eames there. And, well, and saying good luck to the Vrano drivers tonight. I'm doing all good in the content booth here. Thank you, Katie. I hope you're doing well as well. And of course, Mikel Salcuni will be in the mind of Katie. Indeed, many of the Vrano Esports fan club out there. And we'll hopefully get to see him have a better day today, where he's not at the helm or what is the mercy of poor luck coming his way. But speaking of saying hello to people in the YouTube chat, we also do say hello there to the Going Suresh's Barmy Army, and that's with regards to James Knight there cheering on this man, and he's currently one of your last drivers out there. But he goes up to 26th place immediately, and we're very happy to see the Chaps Motorsport driver out there in the form of Suresh, and he had plenty of fun at Road America last time out, and indeed James Bostock had an absolutely brilliant duel side by side for a whole of a lap with Suresh. And I'll tell you one thing about Govid, he may not be the quickest driver out there, I'll give him 10 out of 10. In fact, if we can give 11 out of 10. I know it breaks the mathematical scale for scoring, but I want to give him 11 out of 10 for his ability to race respectfully, because he is one of the best side-by-side racers I have seen in a long time in my commentary history on sim racing. And I've been commentating for the best part now of 6 years, and I'll tell you one thing, I've never quite seen a driver go side-by-side with others and just always find a way to give a millimetre of space, no matter what corner. But as he makes his way onwards, well, coming in towards Splitscare Hairpin, wish him and did all the drivers the best luck today, and look forward to plenty of respectful racing from them. We also do say hello there to Dexterous Motorsports Hobo Live, saying come on DXT, and we're cheering on the team, no doubt about it there. We've got a few of our Dexterous Motorsports cars out there, including the machinery of Rob Mackay, currently 23rd fastest, always 14th fastest in the Premier class. We also do say hello to All About the Gyro, or in other words, Dr. Dwayne Hoffman, who we are paging right now to make sure that he's on hand, to make sure we get the mathematics absolutely right, as we did fumble it a little bit earlier on, and I'm sure Dwayne had a bit of a laugh at that one. And well, hope you're doing well, Dwayne. And we also do say hello there to none other than Patrick 48, who is going to be cheering on the team of Quaintmaster Motorsport there. And of course, we do have our Quaintmaster Motorsport drivers of Simon Hunt first and foremost, and also we do have Andy Chell out there. And Simon Hunt makes his way down at the moment, a little bit faster than Chell. He's currently 17th fastest overall, 7th in the club class. Conversely, Chell 11th fastest in class and 24th fastest overall. But these lap times are continuing to move forward. Now, one thing we should point out as well, in addition to the fact that we are missing Menno Bloem here today, is that we are missing another driver as well in the form of Marcus Clayton. In fact, we said that, but also the fact perhaps drivers we are not missing out here who are looking quite impressive at the moment. And well, that is none other than Ross Gillett, who is looking increasingly quick as he makes his way on through at turn number 2 into 3 and 4 in his BMW M4 Evo. The Welshman, of course, new to the grid for this season, and right now becoming a bit more of a regular inside the top 10 of the club class. Well, I'm very happy for him, to be fair. He's been working very hard so far this season, and all that work is definitely paying off as he makes his way onwards. And other drivers here as well who are here today, and we have the return of Steve Rubino after he did miss the previous round at Road America, if my memory serves me correctly. Home Soul wasn't able to make Road America, and his Ford Mustang is here today. And one thing we do know is that Steve and wet weather do not normally mix very well. It can be a bit volatile, and well, right now the 200 Ford driver, we're just hoping that this is all going to work out today. But to be fair, if anybody knows that Ford Mustang, he does, so it'll be interesting to see just how well he can tame the car. But speaking of tricky cars to tame right now, well, after going for the daring one stop that didn't quite work out last time at Road America, your eyes do not deceive you. That is Martin Kenyon in his Acura NSX Evo 22, and right now he's currently 2nd fastest in Premier and 3rd fastest overall. And well, he's brave in a car that not many would dare to brave, given the fact it is very sensitive to tyre degradation, and also it's very sensitive over the rear end. But it can be very powerful in the wet as it can be in the dry, and Martin Kenyon demonstrating that as more lap times coming in, including from Eddie Fearbold, who now goes into 2nd place, 2.5 tenths off the pole time set by John Ludbrook. That 48.955 recently set. Indeed, these lap times getting quicker and quicker, as I see Peter Florian has decided to go to a set of slick tyres. I look on my timing screen, and well, I do believe he's making his way out the circuit now. There he is in his Porsche 992. And something tells me this may be a little bit too early, because the spray is definitely coming down, but it's not coming down that much now. You can see a slightly drying line out there, but not to the point where slicks are going to be advisable. And the problem with the slick tyre is, when you have got some standing water on the circuit, well, first, this slick tyre has no tread in it, unlike a road tyre, so therefore it cannot displace water. If you have enough tyre temperature and there's not that much water, you can essentially drive on the slick tyre, but you've got to maintain the temperature. But when Florian's going out onto a circuit that is wet, those tyres have only come out the thermal jackets, but they will not be in the optimum temperature window or close to it. That's why he's struggling at the moment to try and get any grip, and that's why he's had to tow back to the pit lane. But we do see an improvement there from the other Acura out on the circuit, Matthew Massey, and Liam Fraser on our camera screen now improves to 3rd at 49.376. So these times definitely getting quicker and quicker. But will we see anybody start to break their way into the 48s like John Ludbrook has? Well, we'll have to find out. But speaking of finding things out, the best way to find out what it's like out on circuit is to get an on-board lap with one of our drivers. And to do so today, I think we're going to be tumbling a little bit further down the order with regards to who we jump on board with. I think it's to Connor Pink we go for an onboard lap here of the Hockenheimring's Grand Prix circuit in mildly wet conditions. He's made his way in towards turn of 1 in the Marlboro McLaren, and as he does so, braking there about 80 metres, just tentatively approaching the corner, and sure only to slightly touch the exit curve there, whereas normally they'd be all the way out onto it, and now down towards line front parabolic at turn number 2. Braking his way about 120 metres away from the corner, down to first gear. Nice approach to the apex there, and just feather the throttle in, get the rear to settle, and now full throttle as much as you dare, all the way through turns 3 and 4. Keeps the car to the right hand side there to make sure he takes a very straight line through at the parabolic curve as he gets ready to come down towards the split scare hairpin. Building up the gears rather rapidly and getting ready to go into 6th. There he goes. And now in top gear, he'll be looking to his left-hand side for his brake marker. Typically braking around 150 metres from corner apex at Spitzkara and all the way down. This is a corner where we can expect drivers to go very deep in the race, given confidence, and braking performance normally are inversely proportional. As we do see Pink make his way in towards Mercedes now into the second half lap. We've gone from straights and hairpins into sweepers and much more tight and technical sections. And through the kink of 7, onto the brakes of 8 he goes. As he does so, all the way down to first gear again. Typically a second gear corner in the drive, but first gear here in order to get the best possible drive. Through left into right, through turns 9 and 10. Feathering the throttle there in second gear, battling with a little bit of oversteer. Traction control kicking in there and neutralising the throttle. And as he comes in towards Mobile 1 curve, throws the car into the right-hander, completely blind on our camera to where the corner is, but the driver doesn't get to see too much of it either. And now over to the right side he goes to brake in towards turn number 12. On a drying circuit, you can brake on the outside to 12. If it's a wet circuit, increasingly wet, you have to brake on the inside because the amount of flowing standing water. But through turns 13 and 14 he goes, and Pink now lets the car roll out to the outside to open up turn 15, the first part of Sud curve. Misses the apex there by design to avoid the flowing water. And now going through the second corner there, lovely enter lap there from Pink. And what's it going to be this time? Well, it looks like he hasn't quite improved, to be fair to him. More time perhaps to be found as he goes on, but currently standing 24th, or what translates into 14th in the Premier Class, and it takes way too much curve at turn number 1, and that apex curve throws the car sideways, and he'll very have to quickly get that off of the racing line to make sure in case any other car comes along, he's not going to be in the way and blocking them and lead to him an instant, and well, he's able to do so quite comfortably in the M. As he does make his way onwards, and what I do see the fact it's the KT telling me to keep quiet with regards to Mikel Salcudi potentially being on course for club pole. Well, to be fair, not at the moment anymore because Pete Pava has taken it over, the Brazilian driver, but I think Salcudi is pushing quite hard and trying to find a bit more time, and also KT's nerves are a little bit on the edge at the moment given the fact we do have the GT season starting tomorrow, and so therefore she doesn't get a chance to recover whatsoever. But indeed, if you're tuning in right now and you have access to a keyboard and the YouTube chat, don't be shy, feel free to say hi, let us know how you're doing, let us know who you're cheering on, and let us know your thoughts on the Hockenheimring circuit. Indeed, I'll pose that question out to you. It has now been the best part of 24 years, but is it still a circuit you don't like? Have you got used to it, or is it a circuit when you saw it unveiled on day 1 you thought, you know what, that beats the German oval into the forest? Feel free to share your opinions, keep it civil of course. If you want my opinion on it, the fact, I think it's not right to compare the two circuits. I think the Hockenheimring pre-Hermann Tilke design era was one of those circuits whereby it was an older era of racing where safety was perhaps a little bit more questionable or suggestive, and then of course we do now have safety being at the forefront of motorsport in this day and age, and also the spectator experience in the forefront. I do think the Tilke design circuit is one that's much more geared towards safety and also really geared towards the fans being able to see as much action from circuit side rather than TV cameras. Oh, but we catch that on our TV camera. That is going to be Liam Fraser doing his own acrobatics to go for a spin there out of Spitzkara, and well, it's rare you do see Liam Fraser nowadays having spins or that. In his earlier days perhaps you would, in the fact he was a very quick driver. He definitely has worked very hard over the last 4 to 5 seasons in improving his technical ability, and also in a car that he's really gelled with that Ford Mustang. But as he makes way onwards, right now Martin Kenyon is looking quite quick out there. 2.5 minutes to go. Pava, Fraser and Favourable all on the slick tyre. Also Mackay and Chell going to the slick. We'll have to see what's going to happen there. And here comes Martin Kenyon towards the line. What's it going to be? It looks to be a personal best here. Does it put him towards the front? He was 6th, and the answer is going to be... He does. He improves to 2nd place there, 49.024. Ludbrooks 48.955. Isn't being beaten by anybody, interestingly. I think Ludbrooks staying in the pit lane thinking he's got this all wrapped up and done. As he makes way onwards, I do see there Simon Hunt saying to you, chat, have anybody got any wellies that you can borrow? Unfortunately not. I've got my slippers, but I haven't got my wellies on me, Simon. And oh, goodness me, that's a bit of contact there between Kenyon, I believe, the car of Andy Chell. And will that stop Kenyon from moving forward? I don't think Chell will appreciate it. A small biff on his backside. Hope there's no damage to the Aston Martin. I think there was some damage to the Acura. But more times coming in, albeit with Kenyon out into the pit lane, Matthew Massey as well. The two Acuras, second and third at the moment. Eddie Favourable is on the slicks, but he's not out there. Liam Fraser is trying to get a lap to go on the slick tyre, but I think he might be right now swimming upstream like the trout, and unfortunately, it's not going to work out. But without a doubt, it is looking close right now for that potential club pole. Mikel Salcuni still needs to find 2.5 tenths to try and steal it away from Pete Paver. But Jack Giles right now, further 1.5 tenths behind. We've not had a lap time set by Ellen Olsen as of yet, but she's on her final lap, or in fact her penultimate lap. She was on an out lap. She's now onto a fly. She'll have one more after this, but I think the game plan for Vanilla TV Racing, quite sensibly, of course, has been just to simply go out there when the circuit is as dry as possible. Still wet tyre circuit. They have tried to gamble the slick tyre a bit earlier on, have the team. Hasn't quite paid off, but understand getting as much information as possible. But the only problem is now, with Olsen leaving it so late, giving herself only really 2 laps, has she left this so late that she's now at risk of finding some traffic out there. As we do see, your 24th place car at the road, Mark Mackay, taking a bit of a step wide there, Mercedes, making sure not to get in the way. And as they make the way now up towards what will be the main stadium sequence, which has stayed here ever since the redesign. Well, Ellen Olsen definitely hoping to try and make her way all the way out the order. And again, this could be a very smart call on strategy. Qualifying wise, just simply go out there for a brief moment. Oh, we have some rain coming back here. Now, I'm just going to double check the forecast here. Were we expecting some rain? We were expecting it going into the warm-up session, but the rain has just come a little bit earlier. So I don't think this is going to change the state of the circuit at the very end. I think what it will do is it will cause the lap times now to plateau right at the end of the qualifying session, but they won't be getting any quicker. So the circuit will be in its prime right now and going on to that final lap, albeit Olsen's not going to get an extra lap in. She's just 5 seconds out, so we miscalculated that. But 50.351, that's a good lap from Olsen, to be fair. Puts a 19th overall, 12th in Premier. And that may not be an easy lap to beat now the rain has returned. Indeed, some drivers might have tweaked the setup slightly and decided to go a bit more aggressive. But as Jack Giles makes way down, I think he is on a lap still, going in towards the Mercedes arena. So is Max Dean. He's about to make his way to the timing line. Well, he's got to make his way through turn number 12 first and foremost to be able to do so. So as he rolls his way through the corner, and we'll have to see what the game plan is going to be for the Gav Max Racing driver. He's currently 33rd fastest, or 16th in class, 16th in club. I think he wants to be a little bit higher than that. We want to see the Lamborghini up there, chasing top 10s, if not chasing top 5s. The answer today is going to be personal best in Sector 1. Sector 2 has been nothing to shout home about. But what about Sector 3? Here he comes to the line as we do see Connor Pink drifting wide that Sud curve. And for Dean, it's going to be 20th. Well, that's not bad though, 50.394, and puts him into 8th place in the club class there, just ahead of James Fraser, right at the end, and delivering a good lap. James Howarth, meanwhile, well, his previous best was a 49.88, and he has gone purple in Sector 1, albeit I believe he is currently on a cool-down lap. I don't think he's going to be on a lap now, but James Howarth's got a lot more pace out there. 11th place in qualifying. This has not quite worked out for the Ford Mustang driver from Dexterous Motorsport Cyan. It's a bit more to do, although you can see there, in fact, we do have a purple sector time for him. Perhaps he is on a lap. So disregard what I've said here. He might be going for a last lap lunge at this, albeit his middle sector has not been great. It's been weaker. It goes a bit deep into Mobile 1 curve as well, and well, somehow keeps it together on the road either way. And as he comes in towards turn number 12 right now, you can see there where the rain is falling. It is making this circuit a bit slippery. It is reverting the circuit back to its slippier conditions at the start of the qualifying session. So I think for Howarth, whilst the first sector's been great, I think sectors 2 and 3 may unfortunately be going to a tan colour here in terms of he's not improved. We'll see as he makes way through Sud curve, battling with the car, battling with the traction control, battling with the brakes. And here he goes towards the line. What's it going to be for the 154 driver? Can he move up from 11th place? And the answer is going to be... no, he does not. He stays there, and that's going to be 9th in Premier best. So that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And as he decides to park the car up, where it is going to be pole position for John Ludbrook. Not on camera at the moment. That's Gavin Corby in the pit lane with Peter Florin behind him. But John Ludbrook takes his first pole position of the season overall in Premier, ahead of Martin Kenyon, his best qualifying points of the season so far. 2nd place there in the Acura. He'll be followed up by fellow Acura driver of Matthew Massey, a season best as well. Well done to both of them. And behind the Spectra Racing driver will be Eddie Favourable. bold, with Liam Fraser starting 5th ahead of Pete Paver, who will complete the run to 6th place and with it be your maiden club pole sitter. Mikhail Salkuni could only manage 8th in the end, 2nd place in class, and Jack Giles and Steve Rubino completing the top 4 of their class right towards the back end of the top 10. But as all the drivers get themselves set and ready to go, and everyone absolutely itching, well, I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost set to go. And we are here, and there's been a bit of an issue with the Split A broadcast there, which is seen with regards to in the chat. We are just double checking in with what's happening at the moment. And I do believe, potentially, well, I'm not quite sure what's happened there. So give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. We will just quickly look into that for you as we are in our warm-up session. And, well, then we will come back, of course. And we'll stay with the circuit side pictures, by the way, so that way you've got plenty to look at on screen, including James Howard exploring the conditions. But we are just going to go silent for a little bit whilst we do explore what's happened with the Split A broadcast. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've just checked in on that. It is being looked into at the moment, but what we can do for the time being is focus on the Split B broadcast here, of course. And as all drivers continue to make the way around, and, well, as they roll the way through, well, it does seem as though at the moment we do have Joshua Downing making his way onwards, and Willie Type 2 racing driver here just keeping his head down, and, well, that rain has definitely come down quite heavily, and, well, I can imagine for him this is going to be one of those situations whereby he's probably thinking to himself, well, this is going to be a bit tough, and, well, we've got a lot of work to do. Indeed, not the best of qualifying performances from him, but he is normally a bit more of a dry conditions driver rather than a wet conditions driver, so therefore we do just have to keep that in mind, that these may be the conditions that hold him back. But we'll have to see whether that is truly going to be the case. We also do say hello there to Vault9, C5B. And, well, hello to you there, Vault9. Hope you're doing well. And, well, I do see that all about the gyro saying we're not concerned about qualifying because we have a wetness measure of 3. So this is more of a validation check. Interesting. So we'll have to wait and see what the game plan is going to be there for the Fidelity V Racing team. But, of course, they pulled it off on strategy last time at Road America. And perhaps strategy could be the key here today. But just to remind you, conditions wise, what we're expecting, rain came back right at the end of qualifying, perhaps just a little bit earlier than expected, about 5 minutes earlier than expected. Rain has fallen all the way between qualifying and this warm-up period you are seeing, and it is going to continue to fall to the open 10 minutes of the race. So we're expecting the race will be starting under what will be wet weather tyres. Indeed, you can see that right now with regards to the tyre compound that all the drivers will have on the cars. Nobody will dare brave slicks out there. They would be crazy to do so, I would say, in the fact that this circuit definitely seeing prevailing rain. However, there is very likely going to become a point where we will see the race transition to the slick tyre. It'll probably be in the final, I want to reckon the final 20 minutes. So that is going to create a very interesting strategic conundrum over the hour, which of course we have the 70% fuel tank, which our drivers all have to adhere to. 70%, we should explain, by the way, is slightly different from car to car because the iRacing balance of performance stipulates that each car, much like its real-life parameters, can only carry a certain amount of fuel in the car. So not all cars have, say, 100 litres of fuel. If we take the McLaren, DC Motorsports Ross Wheatley here, he may be able to carry a maximum fuel tank of 110 litres. Whereas if we conversely then look to Mark De Vries's BMW, that may only be able to carry 100 litres of fuel. So you do the maths, 70% of 100 litres is 70 litres. Meanwhile, 70% of 110 litres, you do the maths there, that is going to equate to what would be 77 litres. So naturally, some cars will be able to carry more fuel by default, and it does come down to the economy of the car and the driver being able to use that economy to their advantage in order to be able to see what they can do. Now, we should be clear, the fuel tank size differences are not that grotesque. It's not a 10 litre difference. That would be a huge difference as far as my memory recalls, I should say. It's normally at most a litre or two typically in those fuel tanks, perhaps around 3 or 4 litres in the most grandiose of cases, so it could just lead to a little bit more strategic flexibility. But if you carry more fuel fuel in the car. Of course, you have got a heavier car, but I suspect the fuel tanks will be absolutely topped up to the brim, and it may be a race where if you want to pull off the one stop, that's typical of these 60-minute races, you need to do a lot of fuel saving to make sure that you give yourself the ability to stretch the car, and particularly the fuel tank, all the way to that transition point where slick tyres are the best place to be. Of course, we did see it in the Sunday GT3 Championship in the 90-minute endurance race at Road America there, whereby those who managed to get the fuel tank to last 45 minutes, in the case of worst racing team ever, they were able to attempt a one-stop there over a 90-minute race as the circuit transitioned its conditions. Will we see something similar here today in 60 minutes? Well, for that and more, it's about time to find out, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time to head to the grid for 60 minutes of racing here in round number 6 of the SimRacing International Thursday GT3 Championship Season 13. You're tuning in the Hockenheimring from Split B. And here is how they all line up for the one and only race today. And so we can see, taking his maiden pole position of the season, is GPX Sinsport Xenon's John Ludbrook, Premier and overall. Martin Kenyon, best qualifying points of the season for him in his Acura for Dexterous Motorsports Magenta, starts second. The same can be said for the fellow Acura of Matthew Massive, starts third for Spectre Racing, and Eddie Favourable starting at fourth there once again. Mr. Fourth place in qualifying, it would seem, in the 100. Behind the privateer, it's MLC bootleggers Liam Fraser, and then we do have your maiden club pole sitter, putting off a miraculous pole position for Pete Paver for LS Racing 1. Well done to him for doing so. Then we do have 7th, Mark DeVries for SimRacing Team Lowlands, ahead of Mikkel Salcuni. Salcuni there starting in 8th. Second of your club drives for Verano Esport, hoping the good luck stays with him today. Behind them, with the Czechia driver, Peter Florian, with a season best qualifying points of 9th place. Head of Clyde Vela for GPX Sinsport Xenon, who completes your top 10. In 11th is James Howard for Dexterous Motorsport Cyan, a bit surprised by the way it's gone in qualifying. And Jack Giles, the winner from last time out in the club class, starts in 12th place for Euro Titans Endurance Pink. 13th is Steve Rubino for Hobo Racing, ahead of Jordan Butler for Spectre Racing, with 15th seeing the season best qualifying points. 5th in the club class for Ross Gillett, the Welshman, doing very well there, just ahead of Christopher Petty for MRC Bootleggers. Michael Rhodes, a weaker qualifying points, but expecting to come on in the race. He starts 17th for Darkwing Racing, ahead of Hussein Salkadesla, with a Scuderia GPX driver followed by Ellen Olsen for Valenti TV Racing, and Max Dean for Gav Max Racing. Outside the top 20, it's James Fraser, 21st at MRC Bootleggers, ahead of Barry Wenman for Dexterous Motorsports Magenta, with Joshua Downing for Type 2 Racing, 23rd, not where he wants to be. The same can be said for Connor Pink, the privateer, just ahead of Simon Hunt for QMS Motorsport, and Rob Gregg for MRC Rebels, with Rob Mackay 27th for Dexterous Motorsport Cyan, ahead of Joshua Holmes, the Team Yorkshire T driver, starting there in 28th. Then 29th, it's going to be Andy Chell for QMS Motorsport, ahead of Govind Suresh for Chaps Motorsport, completing the top 30. And then 31st, it's going to be Ashi Shucksmith for MRC Bootleggers, nowhere near where he normally qualifies. This is a long way back down the order for him. Meanwhile, we do have Ben Wayne join him on the 16th row for 5M Racing. There'll be Ross Wheatley for DC Motorsport, starting 33rd, the Irishman, ahead of Martin Brandon for Axis Sinsport with Simworks. And then we do have Scott Koshich for GPX Sinsport Xenon, and Gavin Corby completing the final full row. The Gav Max Racing driver 36th. And with no lap set, Gianluca Rospo for Deep Motorsport starts 37th. Well, we do have a few drivers who have opted to start from the pit lane, including none other than, I do believe, Martin Brandon, Gianluca Rosberg and Simon Hunt. But those are out on circuit, ladies and gentlemen. The rain continues to fall lightly here at the Hockenheimring, but it's going to be the fall of the flag soon, because for John Ludbrook, it's through the curve, and it's over to him to take us away for 60 minutes of racing action here in the wet at the Hockenheimring, Baden-Württemberg in Germany for round number 6. And it's lights out, away we go for our 6th round of the championships. John Ludbrook gets a good start there, and they roar the way down towards turn 1. But as they do, well, Ludbrook holds his position there, 3 wide in the midst of it all. But everyone quickly filters down as Mark DeVries there goes side by side with the club pole sitter of Pete Paver, looking for that move. Can't quite find it initially, but he's trying to tease it out as best as possible. But everyone makes it through the opening quarters safe and unscathed. But as we do see the big spray there, now everyone comes down. Oh, on the brakes there, it's the white lines, and Joshua Downing goes sliding on around. Hits the barrier there, but the car does not ricochet back on. Well done to Josh for keeping it together, a tough one, and he's going to bite down on that one because that's going to hurt massively, but hopefully we get to see him back out on circuit shortly. But as all the drivers make the way out towards turns 2, 3 and 4, everyone minus Downing so far through the opening quarters. But here comes Martin Kenyon looking to take the lead of the race already as they make their way down to the split scare ahead for the first time, late on the brakes as they'll dare, and of course this is where a lot of drivers will be tempted by bravery, but they'll be blinded by spray. But as they all come down, a lot of drivers trying to move to the inside, their headlights on, full piece. Oh, we had a bit of a check up there from a couple of drivers. I think some have made it on a round. Oh, a car been turned there, and that is going to be Eurotitan's insurance car, and that's been, well, I think that's where the Dexterous Motorsports car is being turned there. Everyone has to take evasive action, and well, everyone in the end does get going, although I think it's gone very wrong there for Barry Wenman in particular. It was the McLaren who have been turned. We've also got a missing front bumper with Jack Giles, and the man who started towards the front of the club class is going to fall to the back of it very quickly at this rate. But everyone gets it together now as we do see 3 wide in the rear of your picture, and that's going to be Andy Shell finding himself on the outside of Ross Wheatley and Ben Wayne, but he's going to go back up the inside now, goes to the double, and Shell there very brave, very confident, and maximising the use of the wet tyres as Ben Wayne in that lovely blue Ford Mustang. It's not a lovely moment for him as Ross Wheatley collects him, and Ben Wayne gets ejected out of the road. Ross Wheatley in holds his ground, and it goes wrong there for Simon Hunt, who gets turned around as well, the man who started from the pit lane, and it's all gone backwards as meanwhile Gavin Corby, Joshua Down and Martin Brandon together here, and Martin Brandon trying to pick up the pieces, Joshua Downing as well, and Barry Wenman watches on. But one lap is complete, and Martin Keane is flying away right now as he makes his way down towards turn 1. Gap already to John Lubbock of 1.5 seconds. Eddie Fearbold, meanwhile, sits in third ahead of Liam Fraser. That's your top 4. They're all Premier drivers. Then you have your club leader, Mikel Salcuni. Now, where exactly has Pete Paver gone? Well, the answer is Paver's down into 10th place as Ellen Olsen squeezes way past him as they make their way up towards turn 2. And Olsen's going to be looking for the move on Rubino shortly. But hold the phone on that because Liam Fraser right now trying to make his way around the outside of a very, very sensitive BMW of Eddie Fearbold. And I think it's Fearbold who's really attacking here rather than Fraser trying to make his way around. I think Fraser's trying to take the place back as they power the way up towards Spitscare hairpin. And the MLC bootleggers driver right now getting ready for that braking zone. And what's it going to be for the English driver here? Because we know that BMW can be a little bit braver on the brakes by comparison. We know the Mustang's got a lot of weight to shift. Oh, and Fearbold completely misses his braking point with the spray there. And has to take it off the road. John Lubbock's gone around as well. Now, was there contact between the two? If so, that might explain why Lubbock's gone around. If not, Lubbock's made a mistake, and well, unfortunately, Rim falls down as a lot of cars go very wide there. They do all know there's a corner there, but unfortunately, I think they've all decided to take the bravery pills at the same time. But in all of it, Steve Rubino picks up the meatball flag. I don't believe it, and the car's broken on the front left. And for Rubino, I don't know how he's going to get out to the pit lane. I think that's going to be towed because that doesn't look well. Pete Paver's gone sideways, meanwhile, coming out towards turn, sending towards Mercedes, brakes hard on, and he's going to try and rejoin here. That's a little bit questionable there, the stewards will say, I suspect, given the fact he's tried to rejoin. But again, is it better to sit in the middle of the road or get the car moving? Answer on the postcard there. That's one of those 50-50 situations. I can see what he's gone for. And the SimRacing 1 driver there, I think, being able to get back together. And I think everyone will understand what's gone on there for the SimRacing 1 driver. We'll get a replay of how that's happened, plus everything else when we can. But meanwhile, as all the drivers make the way onwards, well, still a lot of questions out there. James Fraser, meanwhile, already up into 2nd place in club. He's come all the way up from 9th in class and 21st overall to 11th overall. Fraser is absolutely flying. As meanwhile, Liam Fraser is into the pit lane. I didn't see a black flag against his name. Has Liam Fraser made a mistake and accidentally gone into the pits, or is there a reason for it? Well, if so, if he's decided he's going to the slick tyres, I think that man has been possessed by spirits not on this earth to have that thought go through his mind. And in fact, Fraser makes way out there. It's a drive-through for Liam Fraser. Now, whether he's been given a black flag, I haven't seen one being given to his name. I wonder if he's made a mistake out the final corner and accidentally thrown himself into the pit, which can happen, to be fair. And well, we'll come back to the talking out the pit lane shortly. Jordan Butler right now looking up the inside of Ellen Olsen. This will be for 6th in the Premier class, 7th overall. Olsen not finding it too hard at the moment as the sun starts to poke its eyes through the cloud layer. Jordan Butler then more sideways than straight, and now they make the way onwards. But as they make the way on through, well, I can see there a bit of an update from Ellen Olsen's car to say that Ellen that's staying inside the car, I am captaining a boat. Well, to be fair right now, will it be a very happy boat or a sad one as she makes way up the inside? They're trying to come back at Jordan Butler on the brakes. They make contact, and Jordan Butler, they're trying to shut the door, and I think Olsen in the end on the straightest braking path as possible. And well, I think Butler will look back at that one afterwards as he now has to wait to rejoin. Ross Gillett goes to the inside, Christopher Petty goes around the outside but hits the standing water, and as he tries to rejoin, unfortunately there Michael Rhodes finds him, and the two make haste and hay together. Front bumper comes dropping off the front end of Christopher Petty's car, and Michael Rhodes right now still able to go on by Wimp's rise. There's front axle damage on that, and you can see how much damage there is as he goes wide there at turn 7. Oh, and he goes wrong there for Petty, clips and collects Jack Giles, and Jack Giles right now, well, I don't know what happened to him in lap number 1, but I can tell you on lap number 3, he's not having any luck at all as Pete Paver makes his way through. So was Govin Suresh, and well, Govin Suresh in the end finds a rejoining Christopher Petty, and unfortunately for the Chaps Motorsport car, he's collected and sent sideways. But as we do see their car going around, that's one of our Ferraris. I believe that is the car there of Hussein Sarkadess that's had a bit of a trip round at turns 9 and 10. As meanwhile, Matthew Massey trying to recover his way into this race in the luminescent red and black Spectre Racing Racing 189. But right now things are not going right for some, but going right for others. And well, from one Acura driver who's having a difficult day to one who's having a very happy day. More on that shortly, as Massey having to defend here. As we do have a rejoining car there, and that is Connor Pink making his way back on after making a lot of progress, but unfortunately almost coming to the same fate as Sebastian Vettel, and now brings himself back on the road. And so, meanwhile, we come back to Hussein Sakredesta, and the rear of that Ferrari, there should be an engine there, but there's not anymore. And a Scuderia GPX 108, I think, has been involved in further contact, and that car is in pieces. That's going to be coming into the pit lane very shortly, because that does not look a healthy car, and I suspect a meatball flag is going to be sent its way from race control. But as all that unfolds, meanwhile, Pete Pave has fallen down the order on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there for a brief moment, coming out the Nord curve. It's gone very backwards for him. And, well, as Mark Kent turns up and says this looks like chaos, I think right now Mark Kent's doing his best impersonation of that meme, if any of you remember it, with Donald Glover in, where he walks into a room with everything on fire and chaos unfolding. Well, that seems to be what he's walked into broadcast-wise, but there is some sense in the madness, Mark, I can assure you. And hello to you, hope you're doing well. But right now, Christopher Petty, Rob Mackay and Michael Rhodes all together here, and things are starting to settle down a little bit. But where everything's settling down at the front of the field, at least, it's further down the field where you're starting to see the excitement really come. Josh Holmes right now looking for a move for Team Yorkshire T, and, well, looks up the inside there versus Rhodes. Rhodes seems to have got that Ferrari back under control. And the two fighting right now for 6th place in the Gold car. So Holmes not having an easy task here taming that Mercedes AMG 2020 Evo machine. We do know one of its Achilles heels is wet weather conditions, because it is a car with a huge amount of drive torque to those rear wheels in 2nd and 3rd gear. As well, that's a very late braking manoeuvre from Rob Gregg. Goes in towards Mercedes, gets it very late on the brakes, a bit too late in fact. And Michael Rhodes will take the place back there as Scott Koshich now catches up behind. Rhodes goes very deep. They're all making mistakes. This circuit is absolutely unrelenting for those who are trying to push right now. The rain has stopped, mind you, and I think that's what's leading to more confidence coming. But I think those who take it easy are going to be rewarded a lot later in this race. And Spectre Racing Machine and Matthew Massey right now steals back there. 20th place overall for Michael Rhodes. The rain falls here at turn number 12. Indeed, it's from corner to corner right now. We're seeing the rainfall, as I think Scott Kostrich is having a bit of discontinuity. That's why he's tumbling down your timing tower on your screen. But as we'll drive coming through, well, this is very close. And well, that's Barry Wenman right now, finding himself too wide here with Joshua Downing. Both drivers trying to make the way forward, particularly Joshua Downing, given how it's gone in qualifying. As into the pits comes Michael Rhodes. And that will be for a pair walk in the car most likely, and also probably to get himself out of the racing traffic. I don't think he'll feel very comfortable right now. He's in the midst of the field. He is likely going to have to do an extra pit stop as a result, but the flip side of the coin is he may feel a lot more comfortable here, particularly if this race does end up forcing everybody onto a 2-stop. Oh, and that's Govin Suresh who's got it wrong at Nord Curve. The Chaps Motorsport driver's got around, and well, he's fallen all the way down there to 29. He tries to get it turned around. Not a nice place to be, and I suspect he's going to have a bit of space before Martin Brandon arrives on the scene. And there we do see Simon Hunt as well, I do believe. That's not Andy Chell. Chell's a bit further back, and here is Andy Chell for context, and the drivers carry on. But what a set of stories we've had so far, ladies and gentlemen, and more are surely to come. As well, saying about Ross Gillett only moments ago, and here Max Dean, both doing incredibly well, and both taking very different lines. There's the split scare hairpin. Max Dean in the end almost making his way to the forest to plant a push, and the Gavin Max Racing driver brings it back, but that suddenly will bring Christopher Petty a bit closer, and James Fraser, meanwhile, now making his way past Jordan Butler with the MRC Bootleggers driver. Well, I can tell you one thing, in the dry, he hasn't been that much to shout about this season, not being rude to him, but the way the results have gone. Right now here in the changeable conditions, the MRC Bootleggers Porsche really flying. Now, of course, if we do see the circuit dry up later, sunny pace may go the other way, but at least now James Fraser capitalising on the situation. That's what you sometimes got to do. I think he's gone all in on the wet conditions here with the setup of the car, and then if the circuit's going to be wet for at least the opening half an hour in terms of the optimum tyre, you may as well get the most out of it whilst you can. As Mark DeVries and Ellen Olsen exchange glances. I think that was Ellen Olsen trying to go for the move there through Sud Curve versus DeVries. Couldn't quite make it happen. And DeVries right now keeping her at bay as we look out the rear of the 151. But here they go. And making the way all the way down towards Einfahrt Parabolica Curve. Mark DeVries there goes onto the white line, but just about puts the wheels across it. And Olsen trying to go around the outside here. This is a bit of a brave move from Olsen. But if it gets to the inside of turn 4, I think she's definitely going to be happy with that move. And in fact, that's going to move her now up into 5th place in the Premier Class. Olsen on the move. And well, now up into the top 5. Could she be on course here for a maiden top 5 of the season? We look forward to seeing her go for it, to be fair. I think she'll be absolutely ecstatic if she does make it happen. And who could blame her, to be fair? Indeed, the team would be very proud. But there's still a long way to go. And James Howarth is now starting to find his bearings. The Lecture Motorsport Sand driver. He's definitely taken command of his own naval vessel, because many Mustang drivers do refer to it as the US battleship. And right now, it's full steam ahead there and anchors away for the 154 Dexterous Motorsport Sand driver, who is eager to return to the podium in the Premier Class. But as he does try to chase down places, well, meanwhile, we need to get you a few replays, ladies and gentlemen, everything that's unfolded at the start of this race. And therefore, what we're going to do, we are going to go all the way back to lap number 1 and take a look firstly at what exactly went wrong for Joshua Downey. So this is where it all went wrong for Downey, right at the start. And it was in the run down towards turn number 2 as the rain was falling. And in the end, he clipped the white line on the outside of the circuit. He touched the grass as well, and that's what caused the car to buck one way than the other, but did very well to throw it to the wall. That could have been absolutely tears for so many drivers. But lap number 1 wasn't just about Downing having it go wrong. Then we had Pete Paver for LS Racing, the man who started on pole in the club class, made his way down to the hairpin, battling side by side there with the machinery of Mikel Salcudi, and clipped Mark de Vries, turned around, then checked up, and suddenly everyone came into the seat of the instant, and that is what led to the problems there. As we look to the blimp camera, you can see, although it is shrouded a little bit by the mist of the rain that's projected onto the camera, you can see how that checkup essentially unfolded and caused a little bit of pandemonium. This is what it looked like from on board Clyde Veller's perspective as he made his way down. The GPX Simsport Xenon driver going into that braking zone, found the inside, and right in front of him will be Pete Paver, and he has to stop there. And at this point now, everyone's going onto the back of him and checking up like a set of dominoes. And unfortunately for Jack Giles, it was completely turned around and then some. Now, we did, of course, have what was this incident as well for Matthew Massey, and I believe this was towards the end of lap number 1, the Spectre Racing driver who had started off very well in qualifying and had started 3rd place overall and in Premier, and lost the rear into a suit curve, and it went very, very far out and had to get it back together. But after it went wrong for him, on lap number 2, we had this for Eddie Theobald and John Ludbrook. So this was Theobald and Ludbrook making the way down. Martin Kenyon already running away. So John Ludbrook was the first to ride at Spitzkehrer. As he came into the braking zone, Liam Fraser on the inside there. Eddie Theobald out braking himself, and Fraser hitting Ludbrook there. That's the final piece of the puzzle we did not get to see. Now, what did that look like on board from Liam Fraser's perspective, I hear many of you ask? This was looking down over the front of the camera rather than on board inside the car. So onto the brakes he went, and as he did so here, battling of course with Theobald, outbroke himself with Theobald, and John Ludbrook was just trying to make the corner at that point, and unfortunately Liam Fraser was committed to a braking line. I think both he and Theobald pressured each other into a mistake, and I think both of them in the end will be taken to the stewarding room for that mistake. But we also had this for Ellen Olsen, Steve Rubino and Peter Florian later on the lap. So this was Olsen, I think, battling with Rubino at the time, coming in towards the Spitzkehrer hairpin on lap 2. I think he was about on the brakes. Olsen went deep, but Peter Florian, they tried to turn through the corner, but got barged wide by Rubino, who in the end was battling with Olsen under braking, and everybody else decided to also follow him off the road there, thinking the braking zone was later than it realistically was. That's understandable, and we did unfortunately have a difficulty for Steve Rubino at the end of lap 2. This was the damage to the car, of course, that did force him into bits, but did well. He actually did get it to the pit lane entry, but unfortunately the outside there, I think he did have to tow, just simply because it'd be too risky getting it across the road. And now indeed we had that go wrong for him, and then this for Govind Suresh on lap number 3. This was as the circuit was starting to see some sunlight, but still rain falling, and this was Suresh in the end being collected by the rejoining car, I believe, of Christopher Petty at turn number 10, sadly. And then Hussein Sarakadesta, I think, being slightly tapped there by Rob Gregg, although don't quote me on that, to be fair, that's what the camera angle suggests. That may not be accurate. Towards the end of lap number 3, we had this for Ross Gillett at the time, running very happily in 3rd place in the club class. And well, it was in towards turn 15 he went, turned the car in, and the rear of the car said no, but he was able to catch it quite quickly and get back on the racing road. And then we have just had this for Ross Wheatley, and also Connor Pink and Joshua Downing on lap number 5. We are going to go back to your live racing very shortly, and this was Ross Wheatley already missing the front bumper, battling side by side with Scott Kostrich, onto the brakes, took the outside curb, clipped the rear of Joshua Downing's car, and unfortunately Joshua Downing being turned with him, and separate incident for Connor Pink entirely. But with that, we also have had just this come in, and well, we've just had this from Martin Kenyon, ladies and gentlemen. So he's made his way out of turn 12. This is on lap 6. Made his way into turns 13 and 14 and took too much curve at 13, and it's gone to spin around. So suddenly, Kenyon going for the spin, and John Ludbrook picked up the lead as a result. There was Ludbrook coming up behind, and that's how the lead has changed hands. So it's a good thing we caught that as Ludbrook went to rejoin, and that brings us all the way up to speed with the story, ladies and gentlemen, as we come back to your racing. But as they all make the way on through, and we say hello there to Andy Rooney, or Alera 2007, I do believe, is the user. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, good sir, madam. But meanwhile, James Herf carries on, and we are on to lap number 9. Martin Kenyon has retaken the lead since we took a look at that replay, and I believe there has been a mistake for John Ludbrook, in fact. And I think we actually have a quick replay of that coming up before we get all exhausted replay fever. And this was Ludbrook being chased down by Martin Kenyon only moments ago through turns 13 to 14. And then coming in towards Seward Curve, a mistake that Ross Gillops made early on, and indeed so many others made, and Martin Keane was just able to go through. But so, we do come back now to your live racing after all of that, and more story to be continued here. We are 15 or so minutes clear, and the rain has definitely stopped, but this circuit is still absolutely drenched. And we do look to your weather on the right-hand side, and we can see their track temperature already up to 25 degrees centigrade, ambient down to 90 degrees centigrade. So we are going to see this circuit dry, not too rapidly, but there will be a notable progression of the circuit over time. And we do have relatively clear skies out there as well, just a little bit of cloud that is going away, and it will be pure sunlight soon, and that will help the circuit dry up quite quickly as a result. So I suspect this is now going to be a game of how long can you last on the wet tyre in the fuel tank until you do need to go to the slick. Well, there's one driver who right now is on the slick coming into the pit lane. That's Eddie Fearbold, and something tells me this is a bit of a gamble too far as he makes way down, and well, just carrying on as he does so. That's all these drivers do. And well, a bit of a tough one. Well, we do look back to Peter Florian as we do say hello to Denny Ploger there in the YouTube chat. And we also do say hello there to, I believe that is Steve Rubino, sadly, or Steve 196134. This is unfortunately, he is done and out of the race, which I'm sorry to hear that, Steve. It's not worked out for you, and well, we do know how much pace you do have when it's a good day, but today is definitely not a great day. It's a bit of a rainy day for yourself, no pun intended, and hopefully we get to see you out there in a week's time at Le Mans, doing what that Ford Mustang does best, much like the Garage 56 NASCAR, which is just absolutely stormed past the field on a straight. But as we come back to everything that's going on here, the Chiquita driver of Peter Florian, well, he is still chasing after Mark De Vries, gap of 4 seconds between himself and James Fraser, as Ellen Olsen picking up the pieces from John Ludbrook, who's had it go wrong at Nord Curve, and James Howe is going to do the same as he now makes his way down towards turn number 2. So John Ludbrook making another error, and well, those errors starting to come quick and fast, but I think this is just the absolute evolution of the circuit right now, and therefore I think some drivers again just discovering the fact they can push a little bit harder, but the first to push too hard will be the first to find out where the limits are. There's Mikel Sokuni, by the way. He is Ferrano Esports, running 6th overall. And right now, leading still in the club class. Looking very happy out there as we show you the class standings on your screen. And he does have a 13-second gap almost to James Fraser currently. And again, Mikel Sokuni started in 2nd in class, picked up the lead off of Pete Piver on the open lap after it went wrong for the Brazilian driver at turn number 5. And Sokuni was able to avoid the danger zone. Meanwhile, James Fraser's gone all the way up from 9th to 2nd. Qualifying was not his strong suit, but this race so far, he's absolutely flying out there, and we'll have to wait and see how this is going to play out. But as everyone continues the way on through, one of the things to consider is the fact now that as the circuit starts to dry, car setup is also going to become an increasingly important consideration. Now, the reason we say that is the fact that a lot of drivers may have decided to go for a compromise setup in the car where it's set up for both the wet and the dry. So what will you do in that situation? Well, essentially, you're going to run a lot of rear wing on the car by default at the Hockenheimring. This is a high downforce circuit. We're not seeing that very high top end speeds being achieved here, but you'd probably go for maximum rear wing wherever possible, but you might shave a click off just so that you've got a bit more speed in the dry. Also, the anti-roll bars, you may not have the front as stiff as you would for full wet conditions, and the rear might be just that little bit looser in order to just make the car rotate a little bit more. But of course, it means it won't be as quick as in the wet, but in the dry it'll start to come alive and be a bit quicker. Also, traction controls and ABS settings will be tweaked, but those can be tweaked in the car. Keep in mind that we can tweak the drivers, I should say, can tweak what is the anti-roll bar settings and also the rear wing settings in the pit lane, but it will add 10 seconds on to their pit stop. But meanwhile, not thinking about strategy right now, thinking about on-track action, Pete Paver and Josh Holmes, as Paver moves ahead of Holmes there, going in towards turn number 12, moving up into 7th place in the club class right now. So Paver carrying on a bit of a recovery drive as a new fastest. Oh, goodness me! And well, that's the car, Matthew Massey going for a spin there, and unfortunately goes to get back on the road. And Clyde Vella goes with him. They both park up together. And right now, I think both drivers have got to come into the pit lane. They do indeed. Now, the problem is, and this is something we wanted to talk about earlier on, but there was a bit of an incident that prevented us from doing so. At the Hockenheimring's pit lane on iRacing, if you go across that pit dash line, the entry line essentially, at that point onwards, you have to pit. If you go beyond the white line and drive back out onto the circuit, you essentially will get a stop and, well, at least a drive-through penalty, if not a stop and hold penalty, for quote-unquote unsafe pit entry or pit exit. So that's why drivers you're seeing, as soon as they end up and cutting across what is the pit line, they're coming in, even though they probably don't want to, and that is because of the fact they are at risk of picking up a penalty otherwise. But whilst the penalty is being paid there for a couple of drives, Ben Wayne right now trying to make his way past Andy Chell as they make their way down to that braking zone for turn number 2, and the favourable racing driver here can't quite make a move at the moment on Chell. Both of these drivers enjoying themselves out there. As Matthew Massey coming into the pits there for a stop and hold penalty. It's not a stop and go, it's a stop and hold, so the car can be serviced after it's been for its penalty. He's daring to go to the slick tyre. I think it's a bit too early. I think in about 10 to 15 minutes might be the right gambling time, but right now I think that's gambling a bit too much on white rather than blue circles, if you ask me. As Miguel Cristopetti minus a front bumper in an MRC Moonshine's Racing Club car that has definitely seen much better days. Well, he's had a bit of a moan because he's dropped behind Ross Gillett again. Well, he found his way past Jordan Butler, however. I think Butler's had a bit of a moment off the road, and there's Gillett just in the foreground of the camera shot going through. So Petty right now still trying to get a bit of a move on. As we show you your overall positions, meanwhile, well, the man who has not had a flawless race so far, he did have that one mistake that in the end did force him back down the order. It is none other than Martin Kenyon, who I suspect, if it were not for that error, would be leading by about 15 seconds right now, but instead he's leading by 7 seconds, and chasing after him is Liam Fraser. Now, many of you will be wondering, as we are, what exactly happened to force Liam Fraser into the pit lane on lap number 2? Well, as he completely wrangles the car down to Spitzkehre and pushing it hard. Here's a quick replay to explain. So this was Liam Fraser, and in the end just coming straight into the pits for a drive-through. So the only other thing I can imagine is he did have a black flag, we hadn't seen it at the time, and he'd then come into the pit, and he'd come in so quickly before we could see it. But either way, the MRC bootleggers driver, he decided to come into the pits there to serve a penalty of some description or a drive-through. Well, that explains it all, but back to live racing we do go. But as we continue on, as Liam Fraser gives that chase, Ellen Olsen running in third, and right now being matched by James Howarth on pace. But to be fair to Ellen, she's not been swarmed by the 1544 Ford Mustang driver. And looking very good here for a potential top 5, if not a podium. But we'll have to see. That spray is definitely starting to go down there in the final third of the lap through the stadium section. We would expect it to be less by default, as that's a car rejoining there. That's going to be the car of, I believe, that's Simon Hunt trying to gather it back together. And everyone doing very well, although James Howarth there definitely finding having to come right towards the back of Simon Hunt and having to avoid going into the back of the Grandmaster Motorsport Aston Martin, and Hunt there immediately stepping aside. I think apologetically, as much as expecting blue flags, I think Hunt's saying, look, I've tried to get it back together and I'll get out your way immediately for you. So Howarth's got a bit more work to do. But John Ludbrook goes on the attack. And right now, can he find his way back ahead of Mark De Vries? He's trying to. And right now, Mark De Vries, I think, can seal that place off of him and take it away. Trying to now run away with it. John Ludbrook, who was looking quite quick at the start, after taking that pole position, doesn't have it work anymore. As meanwhile, that's away with Simon Hunt there again. And Simon Hunt right now struggling, and he's got a black flag. And so Simon Hunt will be going to the pit lane for a penalty. That'll be a drive-through penalty for instant points picked up. So a bit of a challenge for so many drivers out there as they come right on through. And, well, I've got a question there from Denny Ploger, which is with regards to what's the weather prediction, as he's on holiday and he didn't quite catch it. So the weather, it is time and weather, of course, and for those who are not used to tune into a SimRacing International broadcast, as, well, Ben Wayne there having a bit of an excursion at turn number 12, the 5M Racing Drive gets it back on. Because we run timeline weather, it means that rather than it being a prediction, it is weather that is going to happen over the course of the race, and it will happen around certain time periods. We've had rain in practice, and then we had a qualifying session on a wet circuit that was drying with cloudy skies, but no rain falling, and the rain came back in the final 5 minutes. Then we had an extended period of rain over the course of warm-up going into the gridding procedure for the race, but since then no rain has fallen onto the circuit since really the opening 5 minutes of this race. So now we are on a circuit that is drying, and we're expecting sunshine for the rest of the race. So we are essentially now at the mercy of the skies and how quickly this circuit is going to warm up. But look already there at Einfahrt Parabolica Curve as Ben Wayne makes way through. That circuit texture there is looking a lot brighter, not just because the sun's shining on it, but also you can see there the spray starts to become less prominent. It's still noticeable, but it's no longer the big wake that we've previously seen. And so all the drivers come charging on through. We do say hello there to Joey Sparrow, and well, he's amazed, I think, at the pace there of Martin Kenyon that making his way around. Indeed, right now everyone putting in some very good stints out there, and this race still got a long way to go. Speaking of which, for Connor Pink, it's still a very long way to go, and he's got to get that turned around as Joshua Downing squeezes around the outside to inside for turns 9 and 10. Gianluca Rospo as well, the man who started from the pit lane. Well, he's currently 24th, steadily making his way forward, with Michael Rhodes still watching on there. Rhodes taking that repair work, and a fast repair on lap number 4. As the Italian driver Deep Motorsport tries to get it back together, we ride on board with him. Italian driver right now, definitely making some ground here as he comes in towards turn number 12. He's gone from 19th to 14th so far. There's a few more places to be made. Along the way, however, we have lost 2 club drivers in this race. In fact, we have now lost an actual Premier driver as well. I think Matthew Massey we have lost from the race as well. But otherwise, we have lost Gavin Corby and Steve Rubino in club, and Massey we suspect we have lost in Premier. So we've gone from 37 starters to full 34 runners at the moment. Simon Hunt's last them, 2 laps down, whereas everybody else is still on the lead lap as we understand it. As Roscoe makes his way up towards turn number 1, with roads following, Andy Chell and Ben Wayne continue to fight, and there you can see Chell feeding the pressure from Wayne, the man who sent himself off the road at turn number 12, and now here comes Wayne looking for a potential move as he looks to the inside, not going to make it happen there, 2 wide into turn 1, doesn't mix normally in the dry, let alone in the wet, and Chell right now holding on. This is the fight for 12th place in the club class, but to be fair, whether it's the fight for the win or the fight for 12th, every point is precious to these drivers, and that's why it's always great to see these battles all the way up and down the order. We are a little bit bereft of battles at the moment, but I suspect we are going to see a lot of battling evolve as we go into the second half of this race, and particularly when strategy becomes the bigger fault and the tyre change as well. But for the moment, at least, we do have the side-by-side here between Chell and Ben Wayne. Wayne on the inside of the Parabolica curve, but that will of course put him on the outside towards Spitzkehrer unless he can clear Chell, or does Chell decide to back off here and just simply tuck onto the racing line? He goes the latter, so there Wayne does get it confirmed now up into 12th place in club, 26th overall, and Chell will try and come back at him later on in the race. As meanwhile, Hussein Sarakadesla, well, he's one of many a driver who had to go into pits early on for repair work, and well, behind him is Eddie Favourable, the man who's already made 2 trips to the pit lane so far today, 1 for a penalty and 1 for a premature pit stop. And we do see Sarakadesla letting Favourable go. I think the Scuderia GPX driver thinking about the bigger picture, and also the fact they are now having laps put on them, including Martin Kenyon, who's just squeezed his way on past. And there you can see Ellen Olsen, in fact, running in 2nd place. In fact, Olsen's just found a way forward, and how exactly has Olsen made a way past Liam Fraser? Here's a quick replay to explain. So going on to lap number 15. Liam Fraser made his way through the opening corner, took way too much curb there, and the car snaked around, and in the end Ellen Olsen flying on by, and well, Fraser making a mistake. But to be fair, now that we take a look at the lap times from Ellen Olsen, I think there's a story coming here, ladies and gentlemen, because Olsen's last lap a 50.48, Olsen the quickest of everybody by over a second right now. The Flynn TV racing driver is absolutely flying, and well, I'm saying this because of nationality. Indeed, trying to channel in a Max Verstappen here in terms of switching on the pace at the right moment, as Liam Fraser trying to come back, and you can see there Fraser late as he dares on the brakes there in that Ford Mustang, but the car's sliding around by comparison. That extra, I think it's about 150 kilograms of body mass compared to the Porsche, and as he makes his way out through turn number 15 in towards 16, right now the 174 driver here might have to let this go as he continues on, but Ellen Olsen right now is on an absolute charge, and well, it is a bit of a gamble going on here strategy wise for so many drivers, but who's making the right calls? As Martin Brandon is out there on a set of slicks. Clyde Vella tried it, but he's retired from the race, we understand, so Martin Brandon is the only slick shod runner still in this race at this time. We are heading into slick territory, but again, based on the rate at which this circuit is drying, and visually is the only way we can really tell here. The drivers have more data available to us, and Brandon here having to let other drivers go as well, and their lead lap drivers. That's not helpful for Brandon because he's losing tyre temperature in order to do so, as there we do see Barry Wenman having to take a bit of an excursion, literally on the limit of the track limit. Well, Martin Brandon right now needs to pump that tyre temperature, because if not, those slick tyres, he's going to very shortly find they're going to be on an ice rink. They'll just be simply slipping off the water rather than trying to disperse it. As the 236 driver makes one to another lap into the pits, comes from the lead lap, Max Dean. So the Gav Max Racing driver makes his way down pit road. Is this a strategic call here? Surely it's got to be. And I suspect it is the fuel tank right now, but also the fact I think the team has said, well, there's nothing to lose. If Brandon's gone to a slick tyre, then why don't you give it a go? And I think Max has decided, you know what, let's see what we can do as he carries on. But from what's happening at the very front of the field and further down the field to a man at the helm of the club class, it's Mikhail Salcuni. Let him up the Vries go, letting John Lubrock go. And I think Salcuni's only got one thing in mind today, and it's very positive for him, mind you, which is win the club race. And well, they sound very simple words, and I'm not trying to make the man sound unintelligent, but every time so far this season he's been leading the class, or within earshot of leading the race in his class, it has gone very wrong. So I get the feeling right now that the 228 Italian is going to be thinking to himself that he's just simply got to get to the end of this one with a gap at this time of the best part of, I do believe, 11 seconds over James Fraser, who we see here making his way through him over one curve. He's got the space to play with, but remember, we could see the pace improve from some drivers and also fall away from some drivers later on. So we will see what's to be. We also do say hello there to Jeremy, who says, let's go. I do believe perhaps cheering on Ellen Olsen. We know we've got quite a few Flynn TV Racing fans here in the YouTube chat, and hello to all of you. Oh, hold up a second, as that's hello to James Howarth, but not the right kind of hello, as in the end he gets it turned around there before Mark DeRee says ahead on hello, and Howarth rejoins, and Salcuni avoids him as well there, all doing very well to respect the yellow flags, and well, the Dexterous Motorsport Science driver going for a trip, but what exactly saw him go around? Well, here's a replay to explain. So this was Howarth making his way down towards turn 1, pulled over there to the inside to dampen down his tyres, to cool them down, and took just a little bit too much curve there. A small tap of the curve, that's all it takes. And the Dexterous Motorsport Cyan driver going for an unfortunate spin, like so many others have already done so today, and I don't think he's going to be the last of them. As meanwhile, Scott Kostrich, despite his discontinuity errors, he's still running in 18th place, chasing after Barry Wenman, who's 11 seconds up the road. As Ryan, that's actually Shuck Smith, trying to make his way away from Govind Suresh, but if anything, Suresh right now is going to be the quicker driver. We're going through the corner, and I should point out that with regards to that pistol of Gavin Corby, he is unfortunately out of this race, and well, the other driver, and that is in the form of Max Dean, where has he gone on strategy? He has come back out on a set of wets, actually, as Max Dean, after coming into the pit lane. Was that actually a pit stop? It was just for fuel. So Max Dean coming in, he's committed to wet tyres to the very end of the race here, as meanwhile, Not Dry Steel carrying on. As they make the way on through, I do say hello there in the YouTube chat as well, not just to Denny Ploger, but also his wife of, I believe, Chantal Ploger. Hope you're both doing well. Hope you both had a lovely holiday as well. And if you're still on holiday, Denny, we do need you back on the grid at some point. We know you're relaxing, but also it's not quite the same if we don't have our absolute Dutch superstar out there having fun. We've got plenty of Dutch superstars here. We always love one more. Ooh, hold up a second. John Lubra having it go roll for GP Simsport Zen on there, and that is at turn number 12. Letting Christopher Petty and Jordan Butler go, and Lubrook's race is going from good to bad to backwards right now. And what's happened this time for Lubrook? Here's a quick explainer. So he'd already been getting it back together there coming out of turn number 10. I think he's made a mistake once. He's already dropped some places. In fact, he dropped several places. And Lubrook in the end just going very wide at turn 11. Dipped it into the gravel. And well, the curb does slant away. They dropped off the curb, and that's why the rear of the car let go. And this is what happened before that. This was coming out of Mercedes in towards turns 9 and 10. And went into the right-hander. A bit too much power and steering lock there. And the GPX Simsport Xenon car being sent to the grass. As we come back to the racing, well, meanwhile, what else is happening out there other than the fact we're seeing drivers slip and slide on the road? Well, we come back to Ellen Olsen, who is being caught by Liam Fraser, albeit right now, fastest driver on circuit is Martin Kenyon. He has responded to Olsen's lap, setting a 50.46 his own. He now does own the fastest lap at a 50.39. Whereas Olsen, last lap at 50.8, her best at 50.48. Liam Fraser now lapping in the low 51. So we do seem to see the Ford Mustang is now switching into its next stage. Ellen Olsen's evolved a bit before that, and the same for Martin Kenyon. Mark DeVries as well is trying to pick up the pace a little bit, although he is a lot further back. He is 19 seconds away from the top three, so this could be a three-way fight for the win at the moment, although Martin Kenyon would prefer it to be a two-way fight for second place, given he has got a 9.5 second lead, as it's a 49.736 for Martin Kenyon. What's it for Ellen Olsen here as she crosses the timeline? This circuit's getting quick. It's a 50.474. Fraser a 50.453. So Olsen at the moment, is she potentially nursing the fuel tank a little bit longer just to make sure this becomes a one-stop race, or is it a question that Liam Fraser now is gaining pace? We'll see, but we are now starting to get to the point whereby these fuel tanks, given the fact we have had wet weather conditions here at the start of the race, we will not be using as much fuel, so our normal pit window of around what is 25 minutes of the race, so let's say the best part of what would be about 18 minutes into the race through to around 42-43 minutes into the race, that pit window will have expanded quite significantly. It will now be around a pit window that extends over half an hour, so from about 15 minutes into the race to 45 minutes into this race, perhaps even longer than that. But are we seeing a lot of drivers here simply gamble and going as long as possible in the theoretical pit window, trying to save as much fuel as possible and potentially get to a point in the race where slicks are the way to go? Now, another driver has gone to a slick tyre. This man, Hussein Sarkodesla for Scuderia GPX. And well, the Ferrari strategist there combining with the GPX Simsport team in order to make this happen. Now, have they made a mistake? And will they be seen as clowns for it, as is the typical internet meme when it comes to Ferrari strategists? Or will this be an absolute Einsteinian move? We'll have to see from the 1.8 driver. And indeed, right now, he does look... Oh, the rear of the car does slide there, but that's a lot of curve at turn before. He doesn't want to be touching that. But I think right now, looking at that dry line, there is potential for the slick tyre here, but it's a very narrow operating line that he's got to work on. But it's worth a gamble, to be fair, because if he suddenly picks up 2 to 3 seconds a lap on those slick tyres in the next 15 to 20 minutes, how far can he potentially go? Well, that's a good question. But meanwhile, what's happening in the pit lane is another question. Gianluca Rosbo parked up. Ben Wayne as well coming into the pit lane for 5M Racing. We have got change in position. John Lubrock battling here with Jordan Butler. And Lubrock's trying to make his way around the outside. Both of them snaking the way out of Mercedes. But Lubrock back on the charge once again. He's been in this position now 4 times today where he's had to try and recover this race. Went all wrong at the start. And since then, he's had a few more excursions. And we'll get in onwards. Now, we do see there... Yeah, what is it? Yash Lokwani asking why can't we see the rain on stream? And well, at the moment at least, I do believe it's because the rain has stopped here, unless I'm mistaken. Again, our cameras, they do sometimes don't quite pick up the rain if it's very fine rain compared to what is the onboards of drivers, as we do see Jordan Butler battling side by side with John Lubrock. Right now, these two drivers heading on down towards turn 1 once again, but John Lubrock finally getting clear there for a brief moment. Will get that done, but we do see there Jordan Butler trying to stay close. Let's ride on board with Butler. Well, there you can see the spray going onto the windscreen, but no rain falling. There is no cloud in sight whatsoever. We haven't had any clouds in sight now for the best part of 20 minutes as Jordan Butler dives up the inside. A bit too late there on a very wet patch on the inside, and well, in the end, Jordan Butler getting it wrong, and we'll expect a racing drive losing out. But as he does so, we come back to Liam Fraser and Ellen Olsen. They have swapped places quite recently. So Liam Fraser now up into second place, overwhelming Premier. And well, how exactly has that happened? Here's a quick replay to explain. So this was the run down towards turn number 6 into Spetsakera, and Olsen out on the wide line trying to cool her tyres down a little bit. Liam Fraser meanwhile staying to the dry line, and Olsen opting not to fight. And in the end, just simply letting it go. And I think it's a smart move from Olsen. Keep an eye on the course. She's battling with the championship leader, the driver who has really been at the precipice of the field so far. And well, as we do see Fraser come in, Olsen going a little bit longer. So, is this the part of the strategy for Valenti V Racing? Have they made this fuel tank go, say, 40 minutes in, as Martin Kenyon's also in? And are we going to see a change of tyres from Kenyon and Fraser? That is the intriguing part, because if they do not change tyres, they won't be spending that long in the pit lane. Remember, tyres and fuel are done separately now as per the updated rules and regulations for this championship as of season 13. So therefore, fuel goes in first, and it is approximately 5 to 7 seconds per tyre. Say 7 seconds, you're looking at about 28 seconds for a full tyre set change. Martin Kenyon is going to the slicks. We have an update on that. The car's up on the track, so is Liam Fraser. They're gambling on this right now. Is it the right cause? Mikel Salcuni carries on. And well, as he does make his way through at 51.830, his best lap so far today. And well, those who stay on the wet tyre all the way to the end, I think there will be enough water to cool the tyre down, but they will be losing pace right at the very end with that dry line. So I'm going to have to find out when we can. But as we do see Martin Kenyon making his way back out, he has gone to slick tyre, but the first problem he's got is he's come out on the wet patch of the circuit and he's got cars all around him, which means all the tyre temperature from the jackets will be gone. So now he's got to pump those tyres with heat. The only way you do that is you've got to drive quickly, but of course you've got to drive quick on a circuit which is treacherously slow. So it sounds like a set of contradictions there, but Kenyon's come back out in 6th. Rob Mackay, he's yet to pit, but he's got Liam Fraser behind, as Liam Fraser has made a mistake coming out to turn 4. So Fraser there succumbing to the wet on his slick tyres. And more drivers going to the slick tyres as well. James Howarth onto the slicks now. James Fraser's gambling on as well. And for James Fraser, the MLC Bootleggers driver, the man who made his way all the way from 9th to 2nd in club, is this the right call to go to? Well, to be fair, for everybody else is, then surely it's got to be right. But I just wonder whether perhaps it would have been the smarter call to stay on the wet tyres here and not lose the opportunity to take a top 5 as a minimum, given the pace he's had and how much gap he's got. But then again, one thing for James, much like any member of the Fraser family, they're not just here to finish on the podium, they're here to win. And I suspect that's why he's gone for it, as we are still waiting to see what Salcuni will do. Gillett and also Petty all staying out. As we do see Christopher Petty under pressure here from John Lubrock. Lubrock looking around the outside. Not quite able to make a move happen at the moment, at least. we're going to wait a little bit longer. Remember, both drivers, they have had difficult first stints of the race, but particularly Petty, who's missing that front bumper. He's been missing it for the best part now of what is 30 minutes or so, as Gillett tucks his way into the pit lane. These drivers carrying on. I think there's a lot of fuel saving going on for those that are staying out. We see even more drivers coming to pit shortly as we do have a black flag for Pete Paver, but right now we see John Lubbock there taking a look up the inside of Petty. No space, and Martin Kenyon here's got so much pace on that dry line on these slicks right now, battling with these two. But the problem is, if he wants to make an overtake, he can't make one unless he is given the dry line to do so, because that's the problem we've been on the slick tyre and a drying circuit. There is a drier line out there. That's your place to go. And the wet weather drivers, all they've got to do, or the wet shod runners we should say, all they've got to do is make sure that they defend on the dry line and you're forced to go to the wet line. Martin Kenyon does clear Petty there, as John Lubbock does so as well. But Kenyon right now is only going to take him one fault in mind, which is he needs to get through and get through quickly to try and reassure himself that this is a win that is going to come to him. And after the strategic gamble of Road America, he won't want to flip a coin and make it tails 2 times in a row, because there's only a 25% chance of doing that. So this is wise, and well, he won't want to have had that happen. And here he goes, Kenyon, as he looks to the move then to Mercedes versus Lubbock. Can he get Lubbock off of that dry line? The answer is no, and Lubbock, to be fair, a seasoned veteran of racing in mixed conditions. Both drivers are very used to this, but Lubbock right now just being very cheeky the way he's defending. He's defending 50% on the dry line, 50% on the wet line, and saying to Kenyon, there's a move there, but you're going to have to risk it a little bit if you want to go for it. And in Mobile 1 curve, Kenyon on the inside there. The camera catches them as they exit the corner, and Kenyon does make his way on past there, finding some grip. He's got that temperature in the tyres and just about to do so. So now Kenyon clear of what is the third place runner, but he goes very wide there, coming out turn of 12, goes to rejoin, and Lubbock's back in front of him again. Remember, Lubbock has yet to pit, so at some point he will come in, but just not right now. Liam Fraser as well, counters. Mikhail Salkuni comes into the pits on the club lead, and here's Fraser trying to go around the outside there of Rob Mackay, and well, Rob Mackay makes it a bit easier by coming into the pit lane, as does Christopher Petty just up the road from them. And well, with Liam Fraser, that is Hussein Sarkadesla, who has gone the fastest of everybody, and Sarkadesla right now proving that it's dry conditions here at the circuit that are the optimum tyres. So the Scuderia GPX driver on the right compound now, it would seem, for pace, but the only problem is he's down in 30th place. How many places can he make up here? The majority of the pit stops at the lower end of the field haven't already been completed. We'll have to wait and see, as Ashley Shucksmith in a car that's definitely now back to normal compared to the state it was in earlier on. The McDonald's machine for MLC Bootleggers now running in at 22nd place, 10th in the club class, and we're keeping up Joshua Downing at bay. Joshua Downing having pitted as well. They're all in the slick tyres here, and I do see there the statement from All About the Gyro. Same with regards to Fidelity V Racing's Ellen Olsen. We're in all bound time for dries, and they need to cover off Fraser. The target to cover Liam Fraser in particular. Martin Kenyon may be a bridge too far, but Liam Fraser definitely not for the team there to try and make their way onto that podium and be runners up here today. In terms of other action that is happening out on the circuit right now, Mark De Vries still trying to carve his way through ahead of Ross Wheatley if he can. Ross Wheatley on a set of wet tyres. He took that pit stop very early in the race on lap number 9, and so Wheatley committing to the wets all the way to the end. But it does seem as though the slick tyre is the right tyre to be on, as into the pits from the lead has come Ellen Olsen. So car into the pits, fuel's going in, and shortly that car will be popping up on the jacks. And Martin Kenyon now makes his way on through the bends. There's John Lubbock behind, and then it is a bit more of a gap to Liam Fraser, who is making his way around right now. The MRC Bootleggers driver here definitely trying to see if he can beat Olsen. Olsen still being serviced out as we do look to the blimp camera. Here is Olsen right now in the pit lane. You can't quite see her, but she's behind the alliance boards and the overall hut. But meanwhile, here's Liam Fraser make his way down the start-finish straight, and I think he is going to be just ahead of Ellen Olsen. It's going to be close between the two of them. Here they go then. Olsen coming out the pit lane onto the wet patch, but it will be dry compared to what Fraser experienced. But Liam Fraser has made this work. An undercut to the slick tyres, and Liam Fraser, despite the traffic he's encountered and the mistake he's made, Ellen Olsen slips to third, Fraser up into second, but can he now close down 10 seconds to Martin Kenyon right at the end? Olsen still on course for a podium here, which would be her best result of the season. She's yet to take a top 5 this season, let alone a podium, so doing both in a single master stroke, or you should add. And Barry Wenman a third 10 seconds behind, and right now lapping quite quickly, but he is yet to pit on those wet tyres, so understandably he's actually out of sequence. James Howarth is the next driver, and he's a further 14 seconds behind, so it's all looking good for Olsen. Mikhail Salkuni, well, he's coming out the pit lane. He's back in the lead of the club class, with James Fraser only 6 seconds behind, and closing quite quickly, I should add, is the MLC Bootleggers driver Although Jordan Butler right now is going to be a thorn in his backside at this rate with how he's breaking in towards turn number 2. I think Butler's trying to make it very clear to Fraser he wants to get on through. But Krista Petty, I think, would also like to have something to say about that. The MLC drivers right now looking to make it a double podium. Ideally, the bootleggers would like to make it 1-2. As Peter Florian, let's not forget about this man, having a season best performance here. 10th place overall and 7th in the Premier class. And was definitely making things work here today on the home soil of his car and indeed neighbouring circuit. Albeit we don't have any circuits from the Czech Republic now. There's Czechia in iRacing, but hopefully one day they will come. But meanwhile, battling here, this is 2x2, and this is Rob Mackay with Connor Pink trying to make his way on past. Both of these drivers have made ground since the start, and behind them, Rob Gregg battling with Max Dean. And remember, Max Dean pitted and stayed on the wet tyres. We're wondering where he was. Well, now we have an answer for you. He's running in 5th in club at the moment, trying to attack Rob Gregg for position. And Rob Gregg here trying to get more involved versus Connor Pink and Rob Mackay to get away from Dean, and we'll see how much more space he can put through. But as Ross Gillett also catched on to the back of this, so he might have an opportunity to get involved here. So we look back from the rear of Gregg's car, and there you can see Gillett a lot closer to Dean, and in fact I think that's going to be a move here as they make their way past the stationary camera, drawing the one through in towards turn number 11, and Ross Gillett up the inside there of Dean, and Dean's got no response now having to let it go. And I think the tyres he's on, those Gavmax Racing 292 Lamborghini's tyres, are definitely now going to be feeling the pinch and pain of being used since the start of the race on a circuit that's definitely drying up. But to be fair, it's been a gamble that's been worth it, as Connor Pink there also struggling a little bit, but Pink has yet to take his pit stop, and Max Dean is into the pits as well. So in the end, unfortunately for Max, not enough confidence in the car to be able to go all the way to the end on the wets, and I suspect this will be to change the tyres and go to slicks. It's unfortunate, but it's worth a gamble, but unfortunately that gamble has not paid off as Connor Pink comes in for his one and only pit stop, and that will be all your pit stops said and done. Albeit it will be a trip to the pit lane shortly for John Ludbrook, as he has picked up a drive-through penalty for 16 or more instant points as a black flag, and there he goes into the pits as hold the phone, and this is a big call coming in. Or Martin Kenyon has just towed to the pit lane, and say it's not so, ladies and gentlemen. What has happened to Martin Kenyon? So this was Kenyon leading the race by the best part of 10 seconds. Came out of turns 10, 9 and 10. Went wide there at 10 and straight to the barrier he went. So much so it was off camera. Can we get a camera angle of it? And Martin Kenyon's race is over as a result. They're hitting the barrier and damaging the front suspension of the car. Liam Fraser went on through. What did it look like on board Kenyon's car? This is what it was. And hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Let's listen in. Got on the power way too soon coming out to the corner there, and unfortunately once he'd gone to the curb he was bound to the sausage, and the sausage curb ejected the car to the barrier, and Dexterous Motorsports Magenta driver with collapsed suspension there had to tow it to the pit lane. That is heartbreaking for Martin Kenyon, what could have been a perfect redemptive strategic drive compared to Road America, where he got it right on the one stop, but it wasn't the right strategy. And here today, it's all in bits in the bin for Martin Kenyon. That maiden win will have to wait in this season for a bit longer, as Liam Fraser right now has an open door opportunity here, lapping 2 seconds lap faster than Ellen Olsen behind, and even a second faster than James Howard to move forwards, as that's a spin meanwhile for Mark de Vries there. Mark de Vries' race is going backwards as quick as it started well, but the SimRacing team Lone Stride now down to 29th. They've been passed by Ben Wayne only moments ago. Gets himself going, but a spin now splits Kara. It's all going very wrong for him. But as we've shown what's happened to Martin Kane, and we're catching up with what's happened to Mark de Vries, well, the one upshot, of course, of the difficulties for Martin Kane is that Ellen Olsen now gains another place. Oh, hold up a second. That's Connor Pink there, parts up against the barrier. And Ellen Olsen now to take very quick evasive action, also to try and negotiate a way around Andy Chell's car. That was not easy for anybody there. I don't think anybody expected Connor Pink to be parked in the wall. And now trying to get that car turned. He's waiting for a clear bit of track before he turns it around. And remember, he's only just recently pitted as well, so on fresh slick tyres. I think he's been caught out there with regards to the conditions of the circuit. But speed and tries being called out. We've also just had this for James Fraser. Now this was Fraser coming down to the hairpin, the man who was at the time running in second in the club class, being chased after by Krista Petty. And, well, oh, and clipped Krista Petty there, getting it wrong coming out the corner. Car went round, and suddenly that's completely turned things on its head in the club class, because Rob Gregg came on through, so did Ross Gillett, and Krista Petty was able to recover a little bit quicker than that. But James Fraser, through no fault intention of his own, having a spin of his own, and then collected his teammate. And, well, that is definitely going to be a huge head-in-hands moment for the Moonshine's Racing Club Bootleggers team, and they won't be too pleased about it, or the Rebels I should say. That's the Rebels outfit they both race for rather than the Bootleggers, as the race does carry on. But as we do have now only 10 minutes to go, as quick as that, 60 minutes has flown us by, and well, it has been an absolutely crazy story so far, and I don't think we're done yet. Martin Kenyon is back out there, we should point out, after his excursion from the lead at turn 10. The car was towed to the pit lane. He is back out in 11th place. And, well, after that pit stop, the Dexterous Motorsports Magenta driver, well, right now at the head of what is a bit of a gap to a queue of cars. Barry Wenman is behind him, his teammate, and then you've got James Fraser. As Christopher Petty comes in, well, black flag, which I think has been given to him as a result of the contact with his MRC Bootleggers teammate James Fraser. Well, right now, Fraser on a hold off here. Michael Rhodes, Josh Holmes and company, as Michael Rhodes goes to the middle of the inside, but on a wet patch of tarmac. They're all on the slick tyre, to be fair. So right now, nobody wants to go for an overtake because it's going to be on the wet, and James Fraser knows that better than anybody in the car's business front bumpers. Josh Holmes squeezes one through. Rhodes isn't too happy about that, but here comes Joshua Downing as well. And the second place man in the championship, looking to get some points back on the championship leader. And this is what Downing needs right now. He needs to try and climb his way up to the top of this small mountain in front of him. But Rhodes is never going to let that go. Goes up the inside, looks to the move there on both Downing and also to try and pressure Josh Holmes. And he's going to have a good run here versus the Team Yorkshire T driver. And right now, Joshua Downing made to tuck back in. But what a battle this is turning into right now. And this could have severe implications for the club championship as we go deeper into the second half of this season. Meanwhile, Ashley Shucksmith there, just holding ground behind them as well. We do see what is the cars that are batting side by side, and that is going to be Martin Brandon and Ben Wayne together, unless I'm mistaken. In fact, I am mistaken. It's Martin Brandon and there's Ben Wayne separately. I think Martin Brandon, they've been passed by a couple of cars on the lead lap. Oh, he gets it wrong at turn 10, and oh, it goes wrong there as well for Ashley Shucksmith. Both getting it wrong coming out of turn number 10, and Shucksmith to the barriers as much as Brandon, and suddenly they're both out of the hunt of that pack. But as they fall out to it will mean, well, others must rise. But right now, James Fraser has been able to buy himself some space to Michael Rhodes, who's definitely found his way ahead of Josh Holmes. And how exactly did it go wrong for Ashley Shucksmith? Here's a quick replay. Well, this was Shucksmith coming out of the corner, and in the end went wide and got caught on the curb in the runoff area with the standing water. And it was the same for Martin Brandon behind. Both drivers there getting caught out. Disaster for the pair of them. But as we do come back to your live racing, where Michael Rhodes getting clear of Josh Holmes at the end of that lap after making a return move in towards Mercedes. Right now, Josh Downing has to queue up once again. Rhodes definitely not going to lose these places whatsoever. We leave them for a brief moment because here's Scott Kostrich under a bit of pressure from Eddie Fearbold. The man who started in fourth in the class day was Fearbold. Kostrich by comparison started 18th, so they've had opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of gains and losses. Right now, Fearbold looking up the inside there, and I think this is going to be a classic move, albeit as he now tries to squeeze his way too wide through the corners. In the end, discovering there's not enough grip there and has to respect that Kostrich has the better line. So here they come then down towards turn number 6 as they get ready for the split scare hairpin. Well, 7 minutes to go. We have got a grand total of what is likely to be at least another 4 laps, including the ones our leaders have just gone on to. But you can see here Kostrich and Fearbold really enjoying this scrap, although we briefly lose Kostrich to the ether. He'll rejoin shortly, most likely. But where will he rejoins the question? And the answer is going to be somewhere in front there, although we just about get him back now. As Scott Kostrich definitely there having a bit of discontinuity. And well, I think that might have thrown Eddie Fearbold out as Gianluca Rospo arrives to the party, and Hussein Sarkodessa does as well. But from them we come back to Joshua Downing and James Fraser. These two are in a side-by-side scrap. And James Fraser trying to go around the outside of Downing right now to hold his position, but Downing goes all in, goes deep, and he forces Fraser wide. And Christopher Petty goes through. Through goes Petty, getting 2 places there, up in the 5th place in the club class right now. Michael Rhodes, I think he's going to be sat in his car, being very glad that he's cleared this group quite recently. And in fact, he got past James Fraser earlier on in the lap, and this is how he made that happen. And this was when James Fraser got it wrong in towards Mercedes, went into the corner, took a lot of curb, and well, went wide, went out onto the exit curb, and had to gather the car back together. And that's what set up the battle between these drivers. And it was Josh Holmes who went wide in turn, and that's how Joshua Downing was then able to have a run. And well, in fact, it brought everybody into the fight just like that. As we do come back to your live racing, even more to come still. Scott Kostrich defended versus Eddie Fearbold. Fearbold trying to make this move happen again, but this time does get fully ahead under braking in towards the iron front power blocker hairpin. And a lovely move there from Eddie Fearbold. Full commitment, but now Kostrich will try and come back. Better acceleration at McLaren coming out of the medium to low speed corners. And now we can see it really being applied as they build up towards top gear. Too wide here. The road surface now wide enough for a double dry line. And Jean-Luc Rospo decides to make it 3 wide here on the wet surface. Well, he does get it stopped, but not without clattering the side of Ludbrok's car. And unfortunately, Ludbrok gets turned off feet for Rospo. As much as it was brave of him, it doesn't work out as Liam Fraser comes through. And Hussein Serikadesta goes for a spin there with his own volition. They all try to avoid the madness that's unfolding. And Ellen Olsen for Liberty V Racing a bit too far back to get him caught up in that. But I think he'll be grateful not to see it. A bit of a scary moment otherwise there. But as all the drivers right now head towards the end of this one, nobody wants to get it wrong. But unfortunately, we have had it go very wrong for Joshua Downing, who's in a very wounded Type 2 Racing 267 McLaren at the moment. And he's dropped all the way down to 8th place in the club class. And we're 17th overall and a black flag for worst measure here. So suddenly, Joshua Downing going backwards. How exactly has it got to that point? Here's the replay that explains. And this was Downing at the time chasing after Petty. Made it about turn number 10, and turn number 10 claiming another victim here. And Downing getting caught, much like so many more drivers, and sliding along. And then sliding to a tiny little touch of the barrier there. So in the end, well, not making any contact to the barrier like we thought. But I think as a result of all that, well, now coming down the pit lane there with that black flag. And Joshua Downing definitely slipping down the order in his chance of bringing home what would be the top 5 in the club class. I was going to say it may be over, but it may not be, as Josh Holmes now has a black flag for instant points. So he's lost out versus James Fraser. He's going to slip behind Joshua Downing or come close to him at this rate. And meanwhile, fastest man out of circuit in club as he spears his way out the inside of Downing. That's Jack Giles there for Eurotyson Insurance Pink, who goes all in for a move. And then he overcompensates and overcorrects it going through turn number 2 and gives the place back. But as all this happens, meanwhile, don't worry, we can see there the Dexterous Motorsports crew saying about Rob Mackay. We haven't forgotten about him. We've got a battle now for 5th place in the Premier class, and Rob Mackay attacking Petter Florian. Now for Florian, he would be on course for his first top 5 of the season if he can land this. Rob Mackay, meanwhile, would also like, I believe, a maiden top 5 of the season. So either way, both of these drivers are going to have a season best result, but who's going to get the top 5? That's the question. And Mackay right now going on the attack. Oh! And he touches the curb on entry towards Lord Curve, and the Dexterous Motorsports Saiyan driver, full of confidence, full of vigour, but unfortunately, it all goes sideways and almost down the drain. And in the end, just dipping the rear left tyre onto the entry curb there. He thought he had more road whip to go with. And well, that's a battling brain there for Rob Mackay. And unfortunately, it just goes sideways. And right now trying to get it together. But for Mackay, he does collect the car back up. He doesn't lose any places in class. He loses places overall to Rob Gregg and Ross Gillett. And meanwhile, speaking of those two, well, here is Rob Gregg and Ross Gillett fighting for second place in class right now. It's not over between them as they make the way up towards what will be turn number 6. And indeed, could we see here, well, both drivers will be on course for their maiden podium. I don't think they're going to be catching Sal Cooney with the time remaining, unless Sal Cooney makes the mother of all ham sandwiches out of this one. Not saying he will, by the way, for those of you who think I've just put the commentator's curse on him. But right now, both Gregg and Gillett on course for a first podium. And what a race this has been for the pair. But Sal Cooney, meanwhile, will come to him shortly. It's Jack Giles going for the move this time. But Joshua Downing, does he get it stopped? He does, but goes too deep once again. And Downing takes it back again. My goodness, well, Jack Giles right now really does have a bone to pick there with Downing. He wants that place off him, but he's not quite able to do it at the moment. He's got all the courage, but he's not got the right braking point set up. And that explains the story. As meanwhile, Jean-Luc Rospo here looking to unlap himself from Liam Fraser. Well, I don't think Fraser's going to appreciate that. As Rospo looking up the inside. And, well, I think Rospo right now wanting to make a bit of headway. Liam Fraser goes a bit wide there. He's got to be careful about this. Fraser's not happy. You see a flash of headlights, but I think right now the team is saying to the radio, Liam, just let it go. You have 10 seconds to Olsen. You can afford to lose time here. He is on the penultimate lap, but Liam Fraser right now definitely finding himself in sticky business here with some drivers a lap down who feel they're faster than him and will try to unlap themselves right at the end. We'll have to see whether that's the way it's going to be. As meanwhile, well, Ellen Olsen still 8.5 seconds behind. Here she is, running second in Premier and overall. And James Howard, 4.7 seconds behind, catching at 2 seconds a lap right now. There he is in the rear of the picture. But presuming the next lap is the last one, which as we understand it, it will be, Ellen Olsen will be safe here all the way to the very end, with Howard probably only having an opportunity in the last few quarters. Then again, he would need Olsen to make a mistake. But either way, Olsen seems to be very much set for a podium here today. Our first podium of the season in the Premier class, and a strategic gamble that has massively paid off. But Final lap then. Liam Fraser goes on, letting the places go here. It's hard as a race leader. He wants every place he can, but he's letting drivers who are lap down go, letting them unlap themselves because he's got so much time to work with at the moment. He doesn't need to spend anything else other than just focusing on getting to the end. So all the battle in front of him can unfold. We do see that Joshua Dan and Gianluca Rosberg, Hussein Sarkadesa and Jack Giles all fighting over 19th place at the moment. And well, it's a battle there as well for essentially 8th in club and 12th in Premier. Sarkadesa trying to find his way around the outside of Rosberg in towards the split scare hairpin. New fastest lap from Howard for 38.85. Rosberg lets the place go there to Sarkadesa. Jack Giles tucks in between the two Premier drivers, and Liam Fraser just watches on. I do see Alera there asking, Fraser is slow, is it because of fuel? We suspect it is because he doesn't want to get embroiled in all the fighting that's going in front of him and lose this win because of the risk, as said there by the Dexterous Motorsports account, the Hobo Live account as well. And well, Ellen Olsen meanwhile still 2.5 seconds ahead of James Howarth, but Howarth is approaching quickly. There you can see him growing as they make their way closer and closer, growing into a bit of a threatening procedure, but we've only got what is about a third of lap remaining here, and I think right now Olsen knows too well just to avoid those mistakes. As Mikel Salcuni still looking very good for the leader club at the moment, but here is your race leader at the moment, taking it sensibly behind those. Indeed, I think there's the devil on his shoulder wanting to pass the ball, but right now for Liam Fraser, the man who qualified 5th today over in Premier, when it wasn't quite perfect in qualifying, but in the early stage of the race, he looked a bit slow in full wet conditions, but as the race evolved, it's come to him, and Liam Fraser will take victory at the Hockenheimring for his 4th win of the season. But behind him to take her first podium of the season and run up today, it's Ellen Olsen for Valenti V Racing, just ahead of James Howarth, who returns to the podium for Dexterous Motorsports Cyan, and then it will be 20 seconds behind. And how about this? It is going to be a 4th place here for Spectre Races Jordan Butler. I don't think he's going to quite believe it. I don't think the team are going to quite believe it. It wasn't quite a podium, but it's definitely going to go down well as the top 5 here. His best result of the season. And well, as he crosses the line, meanwhile for this man, it has taken him 6 rounds, 5 of them filled with bad luck. He has been the quickest driver of a single lap, but today, Mikel Salcuni, you're going to be the quickest driver of the Hockenheimring in club. Well done to you. You take 5th place overall and the win for Runner Esports, and it'll be Petter Florenberg's season best 5th in Premier, 6th overall. Ross Gillett takes the run-up spot in club, passing Rob Gregg on the final lap. We'll get a replay of that when we can. And behind the privateer from Wales, it'll be the Englishman for MRC Rebels of Rob Gregg to complete the club podium. Both of them taking their first podiums of the season. Rob Mackay holds on the end for 9th place overall, 6th in Premier, ahead of Martin Kenyon, the man who almost had it all until it all went to the wall. And then it will be outside the top 10, Barry Wenman. Michael Rhodes comes on through for 4th in club, just ahead of James Fraser. In an instant midway through the race on the slick tyre, costing the chance for a club podium, but 5th over in the class. He'll be very happy with that. And Christopher Petty in the end, taking home 14th place just behind his teammate. Ahead of Scott Kostrich, meanwhile 15th as he comes across the line. And then Josh Holmes will hold on to 16th place there with a very strong 7th place finish in the club class. More to come from the Team Yorkshire, Team Mercedes driver Hussein Sarkadesa, Joshua Downing, and then it will be Govind Suresh who comes up through 19th. The Chaps Motorsport driver just ahead of Eddie Fearbold, who is going to crawl to the line, I believe, and just take the checkered flag with the last splutterings of his fuel tank. He'll be your last lead lap finisher, but what a race, ladies and gentlemen. But right now, Liam Fraser, I think, will be absolutely pleased with the fact it is a 4th win. Indeed, Martin Kenyon was the favourite to take it today after surprising everyone in qualifying with 2nd place and running the one strategy. But as he lost it, Liam Fraser had to work his way strategically past Ellen Olsen. And after that, a 4th win has come his way. But at the same time as well, for Ellen, I think she's going to be absolutely ecstatic to be on the podium. And I do wonder if we'll get the chance to catch up with her in a post-round interview. But just before we do look to your race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, let's take a look back at how exactly Ross Gillett managed to pass Rob Gregg on the final lap. So this was between the two. In fact, this was on the penultimate lap, we should point out, I do believe, on lap number... Well, I believe, in fact, it was the final lap. My apologies. We're right the first time. And in the end, Rob Gregg making an error there, coming out of turn number 10, losing the rear of the car at 10, too tight to the wet line. And Ross Gillett in the end just keeping it on the dry patch. And that's exactly what he needed to do to bring on home that 2nd place in the club class. But what a race in both of them there, and both deserved of their first time podiums this season. As we head back to your live circuit pictures, and let's get those race results up on screen for you, ladies and gentlemen, as we do look to the scenic view. And as we can see, after an incredible 60 minutes of racing here in Split B's, round number 6 at the Hockenheimring, Baden-Württemberg, for round 6 of the Thursday GT3 Championship Season 13, brought to you by SimRacing International, hosted on iRacing, Liam Fraser, your winner today, overall in the Premier Class for MRC Bootleggers, and now on a run of what has been a grand total of a staggering 3 wins in a row. And well, can anybody slow this man down? We're no Menno Bloem here today, but to be fair, he did have rivals to beat. One of whom finishing second, Ellen Olsen for Valina TV Racing. Not the quickest driver out there, but the right setup on the car, a strategic gamble as well, and earning herself the runner-up spot. And well, to be fair, an absolutely faultless drive from the Dutch lady. James Howarth, third on the podium there for Dexterous Motorsports Siam, albeit at the cost of the Dexterous Motorsports Magenta car, Martin Kenyon being relegated down to the back end of the top 10, but Howarth never gave up and has picked up his next podium in his long line of podiums over the course of the season. Will be interrupted at Road America, but back on it certainly today. Then we did see the best part of a further 21 seconds behind Jordan Butler, Spectre Racing, but to be fair, he'll be absolutely ecstatic to be fourth, his best result of the season, and absolutely faultless to a T. With Mikhail Salkuni there, your club winner, that long-awaited club win. And well, Katie, if you're still in the YouTube chat and if you haven't fainted due to seeing that name at the top, you can breathe a huge sigh of relief now. Verano Esports Mikhail Salkuni finally takes his first win of the season at the 6th time of trying. Peter Florian, 6th there, 5th in Premier, a season best, and what a drive from the Czechia driver ahead of fellow privateer Ross Gillett, the Welshman there, taking the run-up spot in club, but most important for him, 7th place overall as well, a huge drive for him. And then we did see Rob Gregg missing out on that 2nd place spot in club, but still 3rd place on the podium that got away from him at Road America, definitely coming back to him here today. Now it was Rob Mackay for Dexterous Motorsports sign ahead of the sister team driver of Magenta for Martin Kenyon, completing that top 10. And what a tough racer, Martin Kenyon. Making an early mistake, which cost him the best part of 7 seconds. He could have been before the pit stops. If we do the maths, he would have been about 25 seconds clear of the rest of the field in his Acura, given the pace he brought to the table, but it wasn't to be. And the Dexterous Motorsports Magenta drive being held back by 2 mistakes, one of which saw him have to tow to the pits. But still a 10th place for him, ahead of Barry Wenman, his teammate. And then we did see at 12th, Michael Rhodes there off of the club podium, but still a solid drive for 4th in class for Darkwing Racing, ahead of James Fraser and Christopher Petty for MRC Bootleggers. Then the top 15 was completed by Scott Koshik, GPX's Xenon, ahead of Josh Holmes, Hussein Sarkodesla, Joshua Downing, Govin Suresh and Eddie Fearbold completing a top 20. And whilst Eddie Fearbold spluttered to the line, he was able to finish on the lead lap, but it was not the lead lap for the likes of Jack Giles, nor was it for Andy Chell. Both of them fighting the way forward, although for Giles, it was definitely a recovery drive, whereas for Andy Chell, it was a forward-looking drive every step of the way. And then behind the Quatermass Motorsport driver, it was Mark De Vries, with Gianluca Rospo and Ross Wheatley completing those official lap down. 2 laps down there to Ben Wayne. 3 down to Ashley Shucksmith for a late impact to a barrier, seeing him towed to the pits, but classified as a finisher for MRC Bootleggers. Pete Paver, 4 laps down there, still classified for Ellis Racing 1, as it will be for Simon Hunt and John Ludbrook and Connor Pink, and also Martin Brandon and Max Dean. But sadly, it'll be a non-finishers classified for Clyde Vella, as it will for Matthew Massey, Gavin Corby, and the earliest retiree of them all, Steve Rubino. But then to the individual class finish positions we go, and as we can see here, starting in the Premier class, well, we got to see an absolutely storming drive from Liam Fraser, but of course, one that's under threat from both Ellen Olsen, the runner-up, and also Martin Kenyon, the 7th place finisher. But Fraser taking that 4th win for MRC Bootleggers, but perhaps the biggest story of the day, for TV Racing's Ellen Olsen taking her maiden podium with a very smart drive. James Howarth, 3rd there for Dexterous Motorsports Siam, ahead of Jordan Butler, with the Spectre Racing driver taking his first top 5 of the season. And Peter Florian there, 5th place, a first top 5 for him as well. Indeed, around the first of so many. Dexterous Motorsports trio of Rob Mackay, Martin Keane and Barry Wenman made it from 6th through to 8th. Close together in the end with Scott Kostrich, a further 30 seconds behind in 9th place. And then completing the top 10 with Hussein Sarkodesla, Scuderia GPX driver. And, well, he definitely proved and that in the end he was able to go to the slick tyre at the right time, because everyone reacted when he started to go the fastest for everybody on the slicks. Best of the rest of the length was Govin Suresh ahead of Eddie Fearbold, and it was a lap down for Mark De Vries, Gianluca Rospo and Ross Wheatley, as it was 6 down for John Ludbrook, 7 down for Connor Pink, and then non-finishes for Clyde Vella and Matthew Massey. And then in the club class, of course, we did see victory, a first win of the season for Mikhail Salkuni. Has he finally got this season underway, and could this be a second half of the season where he comes storming back in it to win it? The Rhino Esports driver in the end. Winner by 4.3 seconds, ahead of a fast charging Ross Gillett, who seemed to thrive in the changeable conditions. Rob Gregg with a late error at turn number 10, seeing him lose second but finish third still, only 2 seconds adrift for MRC Rebels, and there was a further 18 seconds to Michael Rhodes there for Darkwing Racing, who held off the very hungry pack of drivers behind him, all looking to try and carve their way into his championship lead of MRC bootleggers James Fraser and Christopher Petty, as it was Josh Holmes and Joshua Downing. The Type 2 racing driver seeing even more ground lost there to the championship leader, but in turn keeping Jack Giles at bay just about for Eurotitans Endurance Pink, who was a lap down. It was also a lap down to Andy Chell, as it was 2 down to Ben Wayne, 3 down to Ashley Sharksmith, and we also did see a lap down finishes for Pete Paver, Simon Hunt, Martin Brandon and Max Dean, and we did see non-finishers of Class 5 for Gavin Corby and Steve Rubino. But ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our rundown of the results, subject to any Suez inquiries, but it does not conclude our broadcast, because as the sun definitely continues to shine here at the Hockenheimring and the circuit continues to dry, we'll be back in approximately 5 minutes' time as we've rung out all of our drivers and their overalls, and they'll be joining me in the interview room, some interviews, and we'll get to hear what they've got to say about a very tricky day here today at the Tilke-designed Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg Grand Prix circuit. We'll see you very shortly. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener as Sardfly gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately going the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there at 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the two of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the two Ford, the Ford and the Corvette, the two Americans I should say. And
with those two Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, they're basically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wenman. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardiek, up high, he decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this, for the lead, Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind, Tim Perry under pressure and Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide, they're all in the crush as they come through the opening bang. Look back for the rear of your second place runner of Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race to the race leader here. Although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back, but here comes Lux in the tow, in towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way, and it's 2 wide on entry, but Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to third, but Callum Lux does clear another one, and now only 1 car is between him and an opportunity of victory here tonight. Which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being 2 wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside. Does Edwards think about going up the inside as well? He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth, the end, he gets involved. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillerson's going to be 2 wide with him, but 2 wide they're going to turn 7. Tillerson goes on the switch back there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillerson backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is now time for us to kick off our post-round interviews. And joining me for our first interview this evening is not just Ellen Olsen who joins me, but it's also supporting teammate in the form of Dr. Dwayne Hoffman. They join me now. Ellen, Dwayne, good evening to you both. And Ellen, firstly, allow me to say on the behalf of so many viewers today, what a drive to second place in Premier. I mean, that was incredible. You must be absolutely pleased.
Oh, you're absolutely correct, Paul. Thank you so much. It was a great drive, home field advantage, Hockenheimring in the wet. Everything came together and we made it work. Together with my crew chief, Gyro, Dr. Dwayne Hoffman. It was a good one.
Oh, fantastic one. I mean, Dwayne, with you being here, of course, we know that you can be a master strategist and you can be a bit emotional on that pit wall. You must be absolutely proud of Ellen.
We took a risk. I was in a mood to gamble today when we saw the rain because historically, whether it's been GT3 or GTE, we tend to get our rain setups right. And 5 minutes before the warm-up started, there was a pretty active discussion of what set do we want to use. And we narrowed it down to two, Spa or Suzuka. So we pulled our Spa 24-hour set, made no changes except tires, TC ABS, knowing it was going to have extra grip. And Ellen absolutely drove a masterclass in the rain. We knew the longer it rained, the happier we were going to be. We also knew when it got dry, we had no chance. We knew there were certain cars that were going to be more rain-oriented and certain ones dry-oriented. So to get on the podium from 19th, that is immensely satisfying.
Oh,
We
satisfying
are
for
very happy
yourself.
with it.
But for yourself, Ellen, coming to you, I mean, you're the one who had to do all the hard work in the car. I mean, it mustn't have been an easy day by any stretch to survive those conditions.
No, I was absolutely hanging on to the steering wheel for dear life. It was absolutely something. Yeah, I was chopping the wheel left, right, in every corner. I was going like Sonny Hayes in the F1 movie, where everyone makes fun of him. He chops left, he chops right in the same corner. But we made it work in these conditions. That may have been the play. And it was an incredible race for us.
And just off the back of that, I mean, qualifying-wise, we did see you put together a 19th place overall, 12th in class. Were you worried about qualifying, or was it more just get a lap in and worry about what the race will have for you?
Absolutely. I had been racing earlier today. It made me quite exhausted. So for qualifying, I was only able to put together one flying lap. I was lucky it put me into P19 at least. My tires weren't even up to temperature. It would have been a very different race had we started further from the back. Absolutely.
Oh, I see. And then talking about the start of the race a little bit, I mean, there was the big traffic jam, shall we say, at the Turn 6 hairpin of the open lap, but we saw you be a bit inventive
yes.
using the grass.
Well, quite frankly, I have two options at that point. Either I queue up in the traffic jam or I loosen the traffic jam, right? There was a gap. I put the car there. If the stewards think it was a suspect move, well, then we may hear from them. But I think I did everything correct in that situation. That was the only way around. And I got a slowdown. I yielded to it. I yielded to any car that I possibly could, that I knew was in front of me before that traffic jam. But yeah, it was definitely a strange moment.
Oh, no doubt. And no criticism leveled at you at all. You've got to survive at the end of the day and try not to contribute to the traffic even more. But perhaps a bit more of the intriguing side as the race unfolded. We saw your pace really come alive as the circuit started to dry a little bit. And then as we went a bit deeper into the race and the circuit really started to dry up, it looked as though at first you're able to match the pace of Liam Fraser. But then when the circuit really dried, the pace started to just slip away a little bit.
Yeah, the rain is the great equalizer, right? And in these wet conditions, I know how to keep the car on track. I know how to go fast in it. And you could really see that I was catching up with Liam. I think before I passed him, I was running 1.5 seconds per lap faster. That was while the track was still wet. But when it came dry, no, unfortunately, there's no chance. No chance to keep up. These are some seriously fast drivers in the Premier category, and I'm very happy to have held on to P2. At the end there, James was also catching up. We were really just managing that gap. He was eking out 2.5 seconds per lap. Yeah, just held on.
Oh, you did a brilliant job of holding on and coming to yourself, Trade. I mean, at that point, it's Ellen in the car. You're sat there, and I can imagine you're just praying that that gap just comes down at 2 seconds, not 3 seconds anymore.
Basically, all I had to tell Soul, Paul, was maintain. The thing about
Yeah.
Soul is when you give her the pertinent information, I don't have to add any encouragement or any restriction. She knows what to do. And so it really became from my side once we came in the pit, which that was exactly when we wanted to come in the pit. We knew we had a top 5 car about 15 minutes in. And candidly, there was that little part of me that said, this may be our day in the sun, even though it was raining. So we came in on, when we wanted to. We knew Martin and Liam were going to be significantly quicker. We knew that from the telemetry of Gunther. And so we just drove our races we tend to do. And it was just simply an exercise of, I said in our private Discord, car, bring her home. Because we knew we had nailed this gamble. And it was a big gamble to take downforce off the car. But with our spa set that we ran, it has softer springs and dampers. And here we are.
Well, undoubtedly, it's a gamble that's paid off. And coming back to yourself, Ellen, it's your best result of the season so far. We've still got another 4 rounds remaining. Next time, of course, we go to the place where anything is possible, because it is, of course, Le Mans. How are you feeling for our next endurance race round?
Le Mans is an amazing racetrack. It's hands down one of my favorites. Top 3, I would have to say. So this week, right now, the GT Sprint Series is at Le Mans, and I've been grinding it out. Although in the McLaren, so I'll have to see how we make do with the Porsche. It is unfortunately not as strong at Le Mans, and it will be dry. And like I said, there are some seriously quick drivers in this Premier split. So I'm hoping to get a top 10. That would make us quite happy. We have to manage our expectations for that next week.
All fair play. And well, we look forward to seeing you out there and seeing whether you can perhaps outsmart some of the gentlemen towards the front of the field. You never know what can happen. But just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out? Because I know you've got quite a few fans watching.
Oh, an incredible shout out to the fans, indeed, to the many people who were on my Discord as well, watching the screen share, cheering on for the race. It would be too many to name for now, but of course, much love to Gyro, who's here in this call, an amazing crew chief. Much love to Linian, who in the A split also did a formidable performance. These were some seriously challenging conditions, and I'm proud of every single person who is hearing this right now. And I appreciate you all.
Here.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Here.
Oh, brilliant. Well, with that, guys, it's been a blast to have you both join me in the YouTube. Congratulations once again, Ellen, and, well, very happy for yourself as well, Dwayne, in the fact that you've been a part of enabling Ellen to be able to have this huge result. Go celebrate it. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll catch you both, whether it be circuit side or on the track at Le Mans.
Cheers, Paul. Have a good one.
Thank you, Paul.
So hearing there from Ellen Olsen and, of course, supporting team member there, Dwayne Hoffman on the pit wall. And, well, Dwayne, of course, a staple of Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport, a sister team to Vanilla TV Racing. And Ellen there really talking about the fact that today it was about siphoning the car through every single corner, the gamble the team had gone for. as outlined both herself and Dwayne, was to take the rear wing off of the car to a degree and make the car a little bit less steady through the corners, give it a bit more pace in the wet, but in turn it would make it a very comfortable car as we gradually transition from wet to dry. Albeit not quite the fastest car in the dry conditions, as we saw with Liam Fraser blasting away and also James Howarth getting dangerously close towards the end, but enough for Ellen Olsen there to achieve a phenomenal second place. Yes, some would say the difficulties Martin Kenyon promoted her to second, but there was no disagreeing with the fact Ellen Olsen's day was destined for her first podium of the season in some of the trickiest conditions, and I think this is a result that is definitely going to stand with her for the rest of the season, as well as the finest drives that we have seen here at SimRacing International in some time. And at Le Mans, could she potentially surprise everybody, even though it's going to be dry? But you never know, to be fair, what can happen in the wonderful countryside of France. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got plenty more interviews to come, so we're going to step away for a brief moment and get ready for interview number 2 as we go to the club class. And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now in the interview room is none other than the man who finished second today in the club class, his best result of the season. It's Ross Gillott. Ross, good evening to you. I bet you can't believe it.
Evening, Paul. Yeah, very good, mate. I'm a little bit shocked. I did not think I was going to do well at Hockenheim, especially. It's not a track I like. Throw rain into the mix as well, and yeah, I was quite surprised to even get a top. Well, to be honest, quite surprised to even get to the end of the race.
Well, to be fair, you surprised yourself massively, and I have to ask, were you a bit surprised then perhaps at your qualifying points, 15th overall and 5th in class?
A little bit. I did a little bit of practice. I mean, I've done maybe like an hour or two's practice prior to the race, which is less than I'd like to do. Did a bit of comparing with, Josh, a couple of other people who I know are quicker than me, and my pace looked okay. But the fact that it translated then into the actual session was quite surprising, to be fair, yeah.
Well, plenty of pace out there in qualifying, but the race itself, I mean, those opening few laps, yes, we did have a bit of a runaway start from Pete Paver, but he very quickly succumbed to a mistake of his own. But you were always destined to be chasing third place, if not second place. I mean, did you realise it at the time, or did it take some time before you noticed, hold up a second, I'm fighting to be on the podium?
No, not at all. It probably took me till, I don't know, 10 minutes after the pit stop, maybe 10 minutes left of the race before that was even a possibility. I knew first was miles off because Nicole was so fast. I didn't think I was going to catch Rob. His pace was brilliant. Unfortunately, he made a bit of a mistake on the last lap and kind of handed it to me on a silver platter, unfortunately for him. But yeah, as I say, very, very shocked.
Now, could you say, to be fair, that you're perhaps applying a bit of pressure to Rob? Because we did see the two of you very close together, and your lap times towards the end of the race were pretty much identical.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, as you know, I'm not massively experienced with racing generally, certainly not iRacing. So the idea of sort of attacking somebody isn't something I'm really aware of how to do. So I was sort of, I guess, just sitting in his mirrors and seeing if there was something I could do to put him off. I'm not trying to put him off really because I want the best for everyone. But yeah, it worked out well for me. It was unfortunate that it worked out by him spinning. I'd have liked to have actually overtaken him properly, but yeah, it is what it is.
Oh, of course. You always want to beat somebody on the road for a fair fight, but it doesn't always work out that way. But at the same time as well, one thing that had to be said, whilst Rob did make the mistake at the end, for yourself today, it looked as though you were very composed in that BMW. Did you know your limits, perhaps, compared to others? It did seem as though a lot of your rivals were making mistakes, big slides here, whereas whenever we panned to you, at least, it looked as though you were just sailing downstream.
Yeah, possibly. I don't really know why I seem to adapt to the sort of wet weather driving. The only thing I can think is I know I don't have the ultimate pace in the dry, And I'm maybe a little bit cautious because I'm obviously still trying to get used to the game or to the sim a little bit. So maybe that sort of element of cautiousness helps in the wet. So again, I'm not going to have the ultimate pace, but it doesn't really matter in the wet. As long as you're not making silly mistakes. And I did make a mistake or two. Sounds like they weren't caught on the stream, so I'll just pretend they didn't happen in that case. But yeah, generally I was fairly consistent out there today.
Well, definitely a podium earned through consistency. Your first podium of the season and your first top 5. I mean, is this the start of perhaps a bit of a run of strong results in the second half of the season, starting at Le Mans then in a week's time?
Hopefully. I know when I'll get back in the dry, obviously it's going to come down to pace again. I know I haven't got the pace. Josh is a good friend of mine, and I know I'm generally half a second to a second a lap slower than him on most tracks. So I know I'm not going to catch Josh. There's maybe one or two others that are similar pace to Josh or quicker. But I'm hopefully just going to rely on that consistency again. I know I'm not going to win in outright pace, but if I can limit the mistakes and sort of let people drive themselves off track and I'll just get past them sort of the cheating way, then that's good enough for me.
All makes sense, to be fair. And like Murray Walker once said, to finish first, sometimes first you have to finish. And in your case today, that definitely paid off very nicely. And, well, just before I do let you go, Ross, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, well, I've mentioned him twice and he's going to get a big head by me mentioning him a third time. But yeah, shout out to Josh. He's the guy that got me into iRacing full stop. He kind of forced me to download it. He forced me to upgrade my rig and kind of get into sort of doing iRacing in the beginning. It was him that forced me into the first league and him that forced me into the SRI league. So yeah, if it wasn't for Josh, I probably wouldn't have even downloaded iRacing in the first place.
Well, to be fair, we've got to give a big thank you to Josh then, because we're very grateful to have the opportunity to have you on the grid at racing as Ross. It's been great to see you deliver your maiden podium state in changeable conditions. It may be more about pace in a week's time at Le Mans, but to be fair, never say never. But until then, celebrate it, have a lovely evening, and we'll see you in the next round.
Lovely. Thanks a lot, Paul. Catch you again, mate.
So hearing there from Ross Gillett, and well, what a friendly gentleman, to be fair. Great to have him in, and we're getting to hear so many fresh voices and names in the interview room this season. I mean, we've heard from Ellen Olsen, of course we did catch her at Road America, but we've heard from her again today, and we've all heard for the first time Ross Gillett, and hearing his story, and well, the privateer really enjoyed himself, and amazed that he was able to achieve, and only 9 he was on course for a podium after he'd come out the pit lane with about 10 minutes before the end. But sometimes just focusing on getting the job done is all that matters. And that's exactly what he showed today. And if he carries this on, well, like he says, he's not got the pace there to battle for the wins necessarily in the dry. But I wouldn't say this is the last time we're going to see him take a top 5 this season. I think he's one of those drivers, when many get it wrong, he will get it right. And perhaps he's not quite hit a pace threshold yet whereby he feels like he's got to keep pushing the car, but instead perhaps just keep it calm, cool and collected and just see what results come out. And that's exactly what you need in conditions like this at the Hockenheimring, and Ross has been very much rewarded for it. Will he be rewarded at Le Mans? We will see next round. But with that, we now get ready for another interview, ladies and gentlemen. We're heading back to the Premier class. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if we've heard from our runner-up in Premier, it's only appropriate we now get to hear from our winner in the Premier class. Joining me now, following his 4th win of the season, is Liam Fraser. Liam, good evening to you. What a race for yourself. That was not easy.
That was tough. Real tough. Really tough race.
I mean, starting with qualifying, of course, we saw you take 5th in qualifying. Everyone was improving towards the end, but were you perhaps a bit surprised to see that we had a first-time pole position from what was the McLaren of none other, and I do believe John Ludbrook, and also we got to see the 2 Acuras in front, and you only managed 5th in the end?
Yeah. No, not surprised, to be honest. I'm not the quickest driver in the wet. I've definitely took another step, but not surprised to see Martin Kenyon up there in the wet. He's rapid. But 5th, I got qualifying a bit wrong, to be honest. I went out with enough fuel to do the whole half an hour. I was expecting it to dry up halfway through that. It didn't dry up, and I just chewed the wet. So I couldn't get the time out of it. I had it in me, but I just couldn't get the time out of the tyres, so I thought I'd try some dry tyres. Which, to be honest with you, 2 more laps and they'd have been in. Maybe.
Well, not quite the way you wanted it to work out in qualifying then, but in the race, it was a bit of an interesting start because, of course, we did see Martin Kenyon take the lead and just try to storm away, but he never really got a chance to get away. But I think you also made a couple of mistakes out there. Everyone was just making small mistakes to start with.
Yeah, I've done my practice. I did so much AI practice. All my practice was all AI wet dry practice. So I knew I had an idea what was going to go on. The AI don't quite take the same line as the people, so there was some really big differences. I wasn't surprised to see Martin Kenyon. He got off like Sally Gunnell. He was gone. But everybody else was just doing tipply top tails here, there, and everywhere, weren't they? So I had my own. I had a big half spin that I totally got away with. Ellen Alston really put me under pressure during that. Made one mistake and she was through, and there was nothing I could do about it. I think we just made a better pit of strategy, but it was Martin Kenyon's race today. Unfortunately, he'd made too many mistakes. I think he made good 4 big ones, to be honest. If he took 4% off his driving, he'd have won today. But I made a big mistake into the hairpin myself, the biggest one I did, and I've speared John defending, looking on my left-hand shoulder out the spray. Came a McLaren coming sideways. I've not watched it back, but it's definitely my fault. But so I took myself straight for a drive-through, because that's what you would get in real life. So I took myself for a drive-through and then just head down.
I appreciate you explaining what happened at the stocks. We were a bit perplexed with the drive-through, but now we know fully why. Of course, as the circuit started to dry, and the whole back and forth between yourself and Ellen Olsen were the big things of today in terms of the Premier race. We did see you go to the slick earlier by comparison. What were your indicators that you need to get onto the slick time? Because some drivers, like Hussein Sarakadessa, went onto the slick about 4 laps earlier than yourself and got it almost right, but you seem to get it just right.
Yeah, so I was thinking championship, so I wanted to come earlier, but you've just got to take the safer option. Probably would have come 1 lap earlier if championship wasn't in mind. But like I said, I've done loads of AI wet to dry. I knew exactly what I was looking for, but the track didn't dry the same. To be honest, it probably started wetter than what I was practicing on, and it didn't quite dry the same. It didn't look the same, so had to make just be bold. I knew, to be honest, we knew Sarakadeza went early. We were keeping an eye on him, and we knew we went too early. So we knew when too early was, and we went with Martin Kenyon as well. But I was dry set up in the drunk course. It was dry set up, so I knew I was going to be thereabouts in the second half. To be honest.
Well, to be fair, with the setup you've gone with, we saw the pace really come alive towards the end. You were able to undercut Ellen Olsen, and then after that, Martin Kenyon getting it wrong, it was a clear run to the end. Although a little bit of a scary moment, perhaps, with a group of cars that were fighting, and you were trying to put a lap down.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that, but it wasn't great. It's a good thing I don't map a microphone button anymore, because I've got a very quick temper. Unfortunately, the Moonshiner boys got that both barrels in the Moonshiner chat. But yeah, a bit questionable, to be honest. I ended up letting somebody else go at the end, but luckily I had the gap. But I just didn't understand a bit of the driving there at the back.
All fair play, but still, you did the right thing, kept yourself out of trouble, and taking your 4th win of the season. Obviously, Menno not here today, but on the other side, we understand you're not going to be on the grid for Le Mans.
That is correct. I may or may not be at home. I can't say over the internet because I wouldn't be very smart with it. But I'm missing. It's the double point. It's the extra points race, so I had to come and maximise tonight. So I've done all I can, and if we both miss one and he comes out on top, then I won't be as happy as it'd be me if it was me on top. But we're having a fair fight. If it was only if I wasn't missing one and he was, then it wouldn't feel as fair.
Oh, indeed, spot on there. It's great to see you taking it from that lens between yourself and Menno, and we'll get to see you in 2 weeks' time. But just before we do let you go, Liam, is there anyone you'd like to say a thank you or give a shout out to?
Yeah, this grid of drivers is really good. Obviously, we all have our moments and make mistakes or whatever, but some really quick drivers. Eddie Theobald, James Howarth is quick. Menno Bloem, quick, really quick guys. I am driving my little heart out, and these lads are really pushing me, and I'm putting all the practice in the world. And yeah, to all them guys, to yourself for the broadcast, which is always good, and the organizer, the team, the whole team behind the SRI. Thank you.
Well, Liam, a huge thank you to you as well for joining me for an interview. It's been great catching up with you, and we'll miss you at Le Mans, but at the same time as well, we look forward to when you are back on the grid, looking to carry on your charge at the front of the Premier Championship. But until then, my friend, congratulations on a deserved win today, 4th win of the season, and we'll have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you. See you in the YouTube chat.
Will do. So here and there, ladies and gents, from Liam Fraser, the MRC bootleggers driver. And well, there's nothing bootlegged perhaps about today in terms of taking that win as far as his driving was concerned. Although openly admitting there it was Martin Kenyon's day today, he had no response to the pace of Martin Kenyon, who in the end, making those mistakes, cost himself the chance of the win. But he also did mention there he was put under pressure by Ellen Olsen, who was the quicker driver. We do see a bit of a replay footage there of Ellen making a way past when Fraser did make that small mistake going into Nord Curve. And talking out today, in the end, the fact that the way he'd set up his car was a full dry setup, and therefore having to make the compromises in the wet to be able to go full attack in the dry, and that all the practice he had put in, practicing religiously for this round, and knowing when the crossover threshold would be, and therefore being able to really exploit it compared to others who guessed and perhaps just guessed a little bit prematurely. However, also had to be very cautious towards the end when he was leading despite a 10-second advantage, and sacrificed some of that time to make sure he didn't get entangled with some drivers who were battling and albeit about to go a lap down, and Liam in the end bringing home that win. And as he said, with Menno absent at this round, we'll of course understand that he's going to be absent at Le Mans. It all evens out, and therefore it's going to be one round missed by both drivers, and it's going to keep things very wide open. That's why he's need to maximise his result today, and he's done exactly that. But if we'll see Liam Fraser in 2 weeks' time, what will it look like after next round? We'll have to wait and see. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple more interviews still to come, and we'll be right back for our 4th interview of the night. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time coming for this man to take his first win of the season, and therefore, as he joins me now in the interview room, we welcome none other than Mikhail Salkudi. Mikhail, good evening to you. A win that has been long waited for. It's finally happened. How does that sound?
Yeah, very sweet, to be honest. I was catching this victory for a long time. I had a really bad time catching it, and but I'm very happy now that finally I can stay here with you and have an interview. It was a promise for myself to just come here with a victory. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's so good that we get to talk to you. Now, let's talk a little bit about qualifying. 8th overall,
yeah. 2nd
in class. I think you were happy with your qualifying, but were you shocked that Pete Paver took pole?
To be honest, I was not happy. I had a best lap. The lap was there. I had in my pocket, but I was not able to put everything together, and that's why I was disappointed, right? So it's I was faster. I practiced a lot in the wet, and I knew that I could have been faster. But yeah, it is what it is. I made some mistakes here and there. I have to get some experience more, right? I have to learn a lot. Also, the meatballs, you can always get better. I don't think that bad luck is something. For me, is just what do you have. So yeah, I mean it's a learning process, right? So that's why I'm racing in the club. Otherwise, I wasn't a pro.
Oh, very true. Every day is a learning day, like you say. And okay, not the best of qualifying laps compared to what you could have done, but when the race started, it wasn't long before you took the lead, with Paver making a mistake early. At that point, did you think to yourself, right, I've been here before, just hold on now for another 55 minutes?
Yeah, it was in the beginning. It was really I was blind. I mean, as everyone, right? So it was not possible to see anything. I was watching sideways to understand where I was, and very cautious on the brake, on the steering wheel, and everything. Just to I was scared, to be honest. I didn't want to crash anywhere, right? I did it already 5 times before, so I was really cautious to don't do anything stupid. And I was also lucky, and then I avoid a few cars that were spun out in front of me. So, and that's it. The pace it was there. I mean, I knew that. I practiced in changing weather, and at the end of the day, I just delivered. Right, I did some mistakes, of course, but nothing serious. So I could manage to keep the position, and I was overall I'm happy with the result. It was, I mean, from my perspective, it was very hard and very fun, this race. Changing weather is always fun for me because you cannot plan that much in advance. And this race is a perfect example, right? I was practicing all the stint, and I was not expecting the track to get that dry because, of course, I was practicing not with all the cars, right? And I was saving the tires to complete all the race. I was looking at the temperature, trying to put my front left tire in the wet as much as I could. But at the end, as I saw the first 2 or 3 change tires on the dry, so I waited 2 laps more, and then I changed the same. And at the end of the race, also I was running out of fuel. I knew with the other guys talking that everyone had the same issue. Right, so I had to save a lot, very brutally save in the last 2 laps, and I emptied my tank after the pit lane. After the pit lane, my car was shut down. There was no fuel any longer. So it was exciting. The adrenaline was very high until the end, from the beginning to the end, and very fun, very fun race, very fun championship. And I want to take a chance here to really thank you, Verano, or the club, beautiful guys, Kevin, Kitty. They are always supportive. I mean, I have to thank them because I'm here, right? Otherwise, I would never join the championship and have this very beautiful experience. Tomorrow is the GT, right? Yeah, I did already, last season also in GT. I started with that, and I'm very happy to have a chance to race with all these fast drivers, and it was really a good boost in learning, being part of this championship. So I suggest to everyone that loves racing to do that, because it's very useful. You know a lot more from others, from yourself. Of course, you have to analyze everything. Nothing comes alone, right? But yeah, I'm very happy to be here and to experience this racing in this way.
Oh, fantastic. And we're very happy to have you on the grid, Mikel. It's absolutely brilliant to hear your enthusiasm and what you bring to each and every round. And obviously, a great result here, your first win. We're off to Le Mans next round in the GT3 Championship. Can you make it 2 in a row?
I'll try. I mean, I can say bullshit. Who cares, right? I'm just I'm just here. I'm not. I don't have to promise and pay the consequences. Yeah, of course. I like to be. My goal is always be in front, top 5 to win. To be honest, in the back of my head, but I cannot do that. I'm not fast enough. But yeah, this is the will. The will is to be there. I'm practicing Le Mans for GT next week. So I have some laps there, and who knows? I mean, I'll do my best. I'll put my 100%, and then we will see. We will see all together. We will be there to see.
Well, we look forward to seeing whether you can take it to the top step of the podium once again at Le Mans. But until then, Mikel, it's been absolutely brilliant catching up with you. And, well, best luck for the rounds to come, including the GTEs tomorrow evening. We'll see you there. But until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening and well done once again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Oh, goodness me. So great to hear from Mikel Salkouni. And, well, the man has been absolutely excited to have an interview. And, well, we've had a brilliant opportunity to catch up with him. And talking out there the fact he felt as though he could have done better in qualifying, but it wasn't going to hold him back. And he kept his head down and pushed on when it came to going racing. And we're also talking about the fact the appreciation he has for the Rhino eSport team, giving him the opportunity to go racing and being able to compete in this series and other series as well. And the support from the likes of Kevin Smith and also Katie Eames, to name a few. And, well, really shining through there. And when a man is that enthusiastic about going racing, well, it shines on the circuit. And after 5 rounds where he's had to pick himself back up and get going again, this time it really has worked out for him. And the day was going to come where he'd take a win, no doubt about it. But here in the changing conditions, he didn't put a foot wrong and got it absolutely spot on. At Le Mans, as he mentioned there, the fact he could kid himself into thinking he's going to win 2 out of 2 back-to-back straight away, but he's going to see how it goes and give it his best. That's all he can do. And I do love his spirit to be there, and he's all about learning and improving, and that's why he's in the club class. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple more interviews to come. We'll be right back then for what will be our penultimate interview of this evening. And so, ladies and gents, we continue the theme of being in the club class, as joining me now in the interview room is a man who knows just about racing a Mercedes as he does about Yorkshire tea. It's Josh Holmes. Josh, good evening to you. A tough one out there today, a great qualifying session, and perhaps in the end, well, a result that could have been stronger, but still a 7th place, so a season best result.
Yeah, it was very tough conditions out there today. I wasn't too pleased with qualifying because I spun on my final lap. I definitely could have been higher up there. But yeah, I'm very happy to finish P7.
Or indeed, a P7 there, which, like you say, qualifying a bit more time out there perhaps, and bringing the Mercedes to the grid as well. I mean, this isn't the easiest car to drive in the wet for our viewers to understand.
No, it's the first time I've done a wet race in a couple of years now, but the Mercedes seems to be the only car I know actually how to drive.
Well, to be fair, you're driving it well, and perhaps qualifying, there was a lap that was missing, but when we did go racing, we did see you make some steady progress there. I mean, what was it like from your perspective, those first few laps? Because you were right in the midst of the main pack. I can imagine all you could see was spray everywhere you looked.
Yeah, I was very nervous, so I was being very cautious. And fair play to everyone around us. Most of us kept it clean. There was a few mistakes here and there from everyone, but it's expected in the rain, I think.
Oh, indeed. Mistakes can be made, and it's how you react to them that makes the difference. And out of curiosity, had you set your car up for the wet, or had you gone for some sort of compromise or the thought of it would dry later on?
So when I originally gridded up, we thought the rain was going to last a bit longer, but then my friend Lewis came in from A-Split, he checked it, and the rain wasn't going to last too long, so I had a fully dry setup on.
All fair play. Dry setup. I mean, was that a bit of a difficult setup to drive with then whilst the rain was falling? Or was it just naturally, okay, perhaps be a little bit more careful on the throttle here, don't use as much steering there, and then the car will get better?
Yeah, it was just play it as it comes, really. I didn't really do much practice for this race, but I think it's paid off. It's just try and keep it in a straight line, which I didn't do, but we came across the line.
Oh, indeed. I mean, there were a couple of moments where it did go wrong, but I don't think anybody, perhaps excluding Mikel Salcuni in the club class, they had a race without mistakes. Although there were a couple of points whereby we did get to see you really pushing and perhaps even chasing down a top 5. I mean, did you know at the time you were battling in the top 5?
I didn't until towards the end, where Lewis again was watching the stream and was updating me on where I was. But then, unfortunately, I got the drive through and I lost 1 position, I think.
Well, indeed, it was an unfortunate drive through, I suspect, due to instant points, but still a sign of things to come for yourself. And perhaps when you look back over the season so far, do you feel as though compared to, say, round number 1, you're progressing because the results have been moving forward?
Yeah, there's definitely been more progression forwards. Unfortunately, round 1 was more of a technical issue on my side. I was running too many cars. But then I look at Virginia, where I've had an absolute nightmare, and I know I can fight for a top 5 if I keep it pointing the right way.
Well, those top 5s will eventually come, no doubt about it. And perhaps not today, but next up is Le Mans in the drive for 90 minutes of racing. Do you fancy your chances?
I do at Le Mans. The Merc should be very good at Le Mans with the straights.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we look forward to hearing the sound of German naturally aspirated V8 machinery roar to the tune of Team Yorkshire Tea. Speaking of which, I hear, well, there has been some messages, I think, thrown back and forth in the past. Are you a coffee man by chance and you're just running tea on the car?
I love tea, but at the minute I'm on the iced coffee because it's way too hot to have a cup of tea at the minute, I think.
Oh, goodness me. Absolutely love it. And, well, we'll have to hold you to the thought of one day return to tea when things cool down. Although it makes me wonder, could you have iced Yorkshire tea rather than Lipton iced tea? But we'll let you be the decider of that. But with that, Josh, before I let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
I'd like to thank Lewis Kenyon for helping me out every week. I'd like to thank Team DXT. They are a great bunch of guys. They helped me out as well. And mainly, that's it. And obviously the SRI community for putting on these brilliant events every week.
Well, Josh, a big thank you to you for joining me in the interview this evening, and congratulations on 7th place in Clubs Day. Not the top 5 you're perhaps chasing, but almost there. We'll look forward to seeing whether you can make it happen at Le Mans, where the Mercedes should go well in your capable hands. But until then, have a lovely rest of your evening.
Thank you very much.
So hearing there from a happy Josh Holmes, albeit perhaps a little bit disappointed with the way things went, and talking out there the fact in qualifying there was more time out there, but couldn't quite seize upon it. But in the race itself, he was very happy with how it went until it did go a bit backwards. But also talking out the fact in the end, the setup on the car, he was quite happy with it. Not really used to racing this Mercedes in these conditions, this being his first race in the wet. So therefore, a lot of learning as he went. That's all part and parcel of the story. And we're learning from those mistakes. And as the circuit got drier, pace really started to pick up. But unfortunately, that drive-through penalty in the end, costing the chance of 6th place at the minimum and put him out of that fight for what could have been anywhere from 4th through to 6th. With Michael Rhodes, of course, forming up the big trainer cars that he was able to break away in the end, and Josh Holmes was a part of that. But still, more to come. Fancy his chance at Le Mans. We look forward to seeing whether he can blast his way down the straightaways and take that top 5, or perhaps even a podium at the Mercedes neighbouring circuit. But with that, ladies and gents, we've got one more interview to come, and we'll be right back for our final interview of tonight. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if we've had Liam Fraser in today, and from Moonshiners Racing Club Bootleggers, we must, of course, have his brother, Liam Fraser, who we get ready to interview now and give us a brief moment. In fact, here he comes, as he does join me in the interview room. James, good evening to you. And I've got to be honest, I'm a bit heartbroken for you today because it could have been a podium in club, but it wasn't to be. I mean, a bittersweet round for yourself?
Yeah, exactly that. Oh, I was gutted. I can't believe how quickly it dried out, and then that's it for me then, innit? The wet guy is not quite the same as the dry. So, yeah, everyone caught me. I knew it was coming. It was just, dropped myself right in it with everyone. Whereas maybe I could have just let Chris go and then come in nice and third place, like you said. Wasn't to be, unfortunately.
Oh, indeed it wasn't. But the flip side was, of course, qualifying. 21st overall, 9th in class. I mean, were you perhaps a bit disappointed with your qualifying then, given how quick you were in the wet conditions in the race?
Yeah, I kind of was like, I was okay with it, to be honest. I thought I'm right in the middle there. It's not the end of the world, and I had someone had an incident in front of me, so I didn't get the last 5 minutes of qualifying at all. So, but I just thought I'll do what I normally do in the wet, is go past 10 people on first lap, and luckily that's how it went.
Oh, most definitely. You absolutely stormed your way forward at the start of the race, going from 9th to 2nd as quickly as the open lap could be completed.
Nice.
And, I mean, did you know where you were at that point, or was it just a case of keep picking the places off, just go, go, go?
Well, I had an inkling. I thought I might have been winning, and then I thought, well, I've not seen the blue and yellow car, so maybe I'm not. But I just put that out of my head, and I always do anyway. Try not to think about position and just try to get to the end as quick as possible. So just put it out of my head. But yeah, I did have an inkling I was up there.
Well, you're definitely up there. And coming back to what you're saying earlier on about the way you'd set up the car to really prioritise the wet, and as the circuit dried, the pace was starting to go away. We did, of course, see some drivers gamble going to the slicks a lot earlier than others. You made the switch around the right time, to be fair, the same time as your brother. When you sat there thinking to yourself, well, all I need to do in theory is just drive on the dry line and nobody will be able to pass me.
I really did. I just cannot believe how, like, everyone just definitely had me in the dry. And I wasn't expecting them to have me by so much. So when it got really dry, you know, the problem got a bit worse. So I was just out there trying to get the shortest race time I can.
Oh, a tough one there. But you did put up the defences, and there was some absolutely brilliant battling between yourself and the likes of, what was there, none other than, I do believe, Michael Rhodes, also getting in the mix with Josh Holmes as well. I mean, you weren't going down without a fight.
No, I didn't want to give up the dry line, did I? I was trying to make... I was like, don't give him any dry bits, and I was trying all the old tricks, but they were just better on the exits. I thought my exits were shocking really, because I was still in wet mode a bit, so I was a bit slow getting a foot down, and it took me the best part of the dry bit to sort it out, I realised, to be fair. But I enjoyed it, had a mint time as usual.
Well, that's the most important part, that you've had fun out there. You definitely look like you enjoyed yourself. So not quite the result today that you wanted. Still a 5th, but not a podium. Next up is Le Mans, an endurance race. What can we expect from you there?
Well, I absolutely love Le Mans. I go very well there. Whip the whip. Bang the fuel in. Let's go.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we look forward to plenty from yourself at Le Mans, no doubt about it. Although, one question I do have to ask. Have you had the chance to catch up with Chris yet, your teammate? Because I think the two of you might need to exchange insurance numbers.
Oh, well, he did. He has, yeah. He did. He said he wasn't sure whether it was him, and I was pretty sure I went on my own. And then I was just gutted that I've caused him damage, and then everyone's coming at him, and I'm like, oh no, I was letting him pass 2 corners later as well. Oh, I cannot believe it. Yeah, not the greatest work, I'll say. Have you seen it then, Paul? Did he hit me or?
Well, the camera angle we have, to be fair, what we've seen is the two of you did make contact coming out of the corner, although we'll reserve judgment as to who can be pointed the finger at and whatnot.
Oh, well, I felt at the time I had a bit too much throttle on, so that didn't even cross my mind, to be honest, till he messaged me after race. I'm pretty sure that was my operator error, but either way, we finished where we finished, 13 points, so that's why it was important to let him pass, so in case anyone else came and I could rear guard it. I think that was better idea than us running together with me in front, so.
Oh, it makes sense, and like I say, teamwork does make the dream work. Unfortunate what did happen, but the results are what they are. And well, just before I do let you go, James, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, to you, Paul, and all the organisers, and Moonshiner Boys getting together, doing all right this year. And one more thing, just encourage people to jump in the chat after race and just a little debrief, and it's dead light-hearted. No one's having a go at anyone, so I just encourage people to join that after race and join the waffle in the Discord.
Oh, most definitely, and that's the kind of community we definitely want to encourage, and well, I'm with you on that, James, and we'll definitely keep putting the word out to encourage people to do so. But with that, congratulations today on the 5th place. Not quite the result you wanted, but still a solid result. We'll see you at Le Mans. But until then, have a lovely rest of your evening.
See you there, Paul. Thank you.
Here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from James Fraser for MRC Bootleggers. A bit of a bittersweet round, of course, because he mentioned there the fact that he had the right setup for the wet conditions and so much pace in the car, but the circuit dried too quickly, and in the end, he really was on the back foot. Also feeling a little bit guilty about the contact between himself and teammate Christopher Petty, and asking us there who made the contact, and well, we reserve the right not to mention that based on what we've seen. Of course, there was contact between the two cars there, but I think it was just what was a 50-50. They happened to be in the wrong place together at the right time. But at the same time as well, the fact he was so rapid at the start of the wet race, but saying, like he always is, loves making up the places in the wet. But unfortunately, the conditions went against him, and he was a sitting duck right towards the end, as the replay footage has shown us, being chased down by Michael Rhodes, Josh Holmes, and other drivers there in that long conga line of cars. But still, for James, credit where it's due. Took a gamble today and earned himself a top 5. And what could happen at Le Mans, a circuit he enjoys? So it could be another top 5. Could it even be a podium? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today. We've had a bump edition of interviews, so many volunteers, and we always like to try and grab as many as possible. A huge thank you to all of our interviewees, and here's a reminder of who we've spoken to. Indeed, we had the opportunity to catch up with 6 different individuals, a bit of a club leaning today as well for our interviews. We always like to hear from the second R2 class in Split B as much as our leading class. But of course, we spoke to one of our leaders today when it came to strategy and pace, Ellen Olsen there, the runner-up in Premier class, converting what's that 12th place in qualifying into her first podium of the season with Gamble strategy. And also we caught up with strategist on the pit wall, Dwayne Hoffman at Valina TV Racing, stroke Full Tilt Virtual Motorsport. It was great to talk to both of them. Then we went to the club class to talk to the classes run-up there, and that was Ross Gillett, the Welsh privateer, taking his first podium of the season with a very consistent drive where it wasn't about pushing the limits, it was just about driving to survive. Then we came to the Premier class and we spoke to your class winner, Liam Fraser, and talked about the fact that they absolutely min-maxed the day and secured the maximum points, even though it was meant to be Martin Kenyon's day of victory. When Kenyon dropped it, Fraser was there to pick up things, and he's pleased he has, given the fact he'll be missing Le Mans and missing a chance there of the bonus points round versus his main rival who missed today, of course, Menno Bloem. Then for the MRC Bootleggers drive, we went to Mikhail Salcuni for Verano Esports, and the club class driver there taking his maiden win of the season. An absolutely happy man, no doubt about it. Looking forward to plenty more, whether it be in the GT3 or our GTE Championship, and we'll see him on the grid for that tomorrow evening, but also we'll see him back on the grid for Le Mans, looking to try and see if he can make it at least another podium in France. Then we spoke to Josh Holmes, staying in the club class for the remainder of our interviews, the Team Yorkshire T driver overcoming a bit of a downward qualifying session, and on the rise prize, but a drive-through penalty circumventing what could have been his chances of a top 5. And in James Fraser, we just spoke to a chance for his first podium of the season, perhaps at least a 4th place, but then having to settle for 5th when things did get a little bit scrappy and difficult at the end of the race after his wet weather setup and prioritisation definitely gave way under the pressure of the drying conditions and all the club drivers picking up the pace behind him. But a huge thank you to all 6 of our interviewees, and a big thank you to all of our volunteers. Plenty more interviews to come, and a big well done to all the drivers today for their brilliant racing and the results that our interviews have been able to achieve. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can get on the grid here at SimRacing International, well, the best thing to do is join our official Discord. Invite link at the bottom of your screen. We promise you won't be disappointed whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie racer. There is a home for you here on the grid at SimRacing International. And in terms of our ongoing upcoming series, we do, of course, have the Thursday evening GT3 Championship, which you've been tuning to Split B of today in Season 13. We do run the 2 splits every Thursday evening on a weekly basis. Alternatively, if you're a GT3 fan but you want to race on weekends, we've got you covered there with the UK SimRacing Sunday Showdown Championship, and that's in its 19th season, running on Sunday evenings every week. But if you're more of a fan of the Grand Touring endurance cars, the GTEs, and they have a soft spot in my heart, I can promise you that, well, they do run every 2 weeks on Friday evenings, so a brand new endurance-focused format for the upcoming season that gets underway tomorrow, but the broadcast of the season opener will be posted around next Tuesday, just to make sure you don't miss it. And well, if you're looking for something brand new in its entirety, our biggest series that we've ever run here at SimRacing International, it's the Motorsport UK Esports Approved Championship. It is our Transatlantic Trophy Season 1, dedicated to the McLaren racing machines in the GT3 and GT4 class, and again, that gets underway next Wednesday evening. Every 2 weeks we'll go racing, and that is a team's championship as much a driver's championship. Indeed, some of the very best drivers out there going for glory with some of the biggest prizes we've ever offered up for grabs. But if you're looking for something far more casual, perhaps looking to dip your toes in at the shallow end before going into the deep end of competitive racing, we do have every week 3 races available in our practice league, so something for everybody here at SimRacing International, and there's never been a better time to get on the grid with us. But with that, we'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include CarMate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and also lastly, but by no means least, we'd like to give a big thank you to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us as a recommended community. Long may that continue throughout 2026 and beyond, and we're very proud of that recognition, and thank you to Motorsport UK Esports. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn our attentions to round number 7. The weather conditions will go back to being settled. It will be dry when we make our way to France for the legendary Le Mans circuit, the circuit de 24 Hours du Mans, as it's known more formally, and there on Thursday, the 13th of August 2026, we'll be going racing for what will be none other than the endurance race round. It's going to be our second endurance race round of, in fact, our fourth. I'll do the maths properly this time. Our 3rd endurance race round of the season. There we go. Got it absolutely right that time. Indeed, you can tell it's a little bit warm here at the commentary booth. But our 3rd endurance race round, our final one of the season. And who exactly is going to outlast the circuit that's punishing on both machine and driver, and who may find themselves running out of stamina right towards the very end. Well, in terms of our championships, of course, in the Premier Championship, now 4 wins out of 6 rounds. The only thing that can stop Liam Fraser at the moment, it would seem, is the fact he'll be missing Le Mans and giving an open door opportunity for Menno Bloem to try and level the score with bonus points on the line, but will he be able to do so with the pair still leading significantly away from the rest of the Premier Class Championship? And as for the club class, will Michael Rhodes stay, making sure to gain more points than Joshua Downing, but many of their rivals now gaining ground and showing pace, but will it be all back to normal and business as usual between our leaders when we go to Le Mans? We'll have to wait and see. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we have been SimRacing International. You've been tuning to Split B of our GT3 Championship on Thursdays, and I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, have a lovely evening, and most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.